Hey, hold on. Hey there. How's it going? All right. Welcome, welcome. All right. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
Laura? So nice to see you. And hi, let's see, Janet, and I see Moni is here. Saul. Everyone else is still here, but connecting to sound. So let me keep bringing people in. There we go. All right. Hi, Susan and Anna. Nice to see everyone. All right, so who else? I think everyone has sound now. Okay, so is everyone hearing me? Oh, Moni, but that's your second screen, so that's okay. All right, hi there. Welcome back. I saw you guys posted a bunch of stuff up in the Padlet. Go ahead and before I show anything, go to the chat and give a little hello, aloha, or whatever you need to be on here. And I'm curious how it's going with people who are going to buy the applications. Did it work? Are they installed? Did it not work? What's who was going to buy them and did? Nope. A third. Okay, Anna.
I was gonna buy them, but I haven't received a link yet.
Okay, so you did it, but you haven't yet heard back.
Yeah.
And when did you buy it?
During class last week.
Last week. That's actually much more than normally. It's like 4 to 5 days, but that would be a week. And well, it was Easter. I don't know. Some people close, not close, but disappear. But that seems like a lot. But you're checking your pipeline email, right? Because that's the one they're going to write to. I remember I said, yeah. That's key. They only have your pipeline email. They don't know you in any other way, right? So yeah, I'm glad I remembered to ask you that. That's pretty crucial.
I'll double check.
And it could be that they haven't written to you there. I haven't heard a whole week, but there's always someone who isn't doing their job right at the other end possible, right? But I have a feeling it's in your, if you haven't checked pipeline, I'm feeling you have it. Who else? There we go. Hi, Gerard.
Hey, Diana, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
This is kind of peculiar because on all my other programs, it works. But, you know, on the preferences thing that you talked about at the beginning of last class,
remind me.
Oh, just where to find preferences.
And Illustrator preferences?
Yeah, Illustrator preferences.
Yeah, what did I mention?
And I'm on Mac, and if you click on Illustrator, it doesn't have a selection for preferences.
No, Illustrator, okay, on a Mac. So I only demoed it on the Windows. So on the Mac, it's the only place that it's completely different, Mac or PC. You go up to the top where you have all the menu bars near to the Apple, and then you go to the word Illustrator, and right under the Illustrator, you'll have the word preferences.
No, it's not there. It says about Illustrator.
And right under that. Does it say?
And then settings.
Oh, in Ventura, that OS Ventura, the latest software, they have changed the word preferences, which have been for like 20 years, to settings, because they're making Ventura like the phones and the iPads, where if you all have iPhones, you know that you go to the settings on the computer. So now that's been always preferences. Now it says settings. There you go.
What's funny is that even I went to the help thing on Adobe,
and it doesn't say it yet.
They still have it wrong.
Because it's a Ventura thing. It's not Photoshop. You know, it isn't an Adobe change.
Okay.
So yeah, they need to update their handouts. But yeah, because
it's like you'd think they'd be up to date better than anybody.
So I don't think anyone here is in my Mac classes, but let me explain to you that right now I'm teaching my Mac classes how to use a Mac. And I have to demonstrate everything twice. Well, here I'm kind of haven't seen it yet, but now and then I'll do a Mac or a PC. But in general, there's so few differences, it doesn't matter. But the new operating system is quite different. The preferences, it changed so much. So the place where you change all this stuff. So I'm always like, okay, here, if you have Ventura, and if you have the old, it's like everything has to be demonstrated twice because they've made a real change. So, and if you guys are, any of you guys are Mac people and you do upgrade, be aware that most things work exactly the same, but the system preferences for the whole computer and every program not only has changed name, but it actually looks very different. The presentation is now looking like it does if you've ever gone to your settings in your phone. That's what it looks like. So it's really changed. So anyway, that's a warning, and thanks. I guess I wouldn't have thought of saying that until you brought it up. I've not gone to my settings ever since you brought it up. On my computer at home, my personal computer is still not upgraded to Ventura, but I have a Mac, a laptop that I teach with that is the newest one that is upgraded to Ventura. So I kind of have both things going for me. Anyway, so Mac people, how many of you guys are Mac people? A little show of hands or a yes. Okay. Like from what I see, at least 6 of you raise your hands. If you upgraded to Ventura, then just so you know, it's all now called settings. If you didn't upgrade yet, that's the main change. Everything, there's a couple other cool changes, but that's the one that visually and name-wise pretty different. All right. Okay. So that said, anything new? I'm looking at the chat in case there's any questions. Oh, just at your Mac. I thought I seen it's all, yeah, it's all hello, hello. So I have not, there's someone who was going to join who needed the link. Did I not send them the link? I didn't add them to the roster. Well, hopefully they'll show up. Yeah, hopefully they'll show up. Okay. I can't interrupt now to send him the link. If he's got it, he's got it. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. All right, so I'm going to share my our Padlet, our class Padlet. Here it is. And you guys posted a bunch of good stuff here. And
I think
this
that's
is,
not
yeah,
ours.
it's not the updated one. I have to refresh. Yeah, on my phone, I see what you guys always do. But here it opens up.
This says
the
fall
way I
22.
left it. Ah, that's why. Thank you. Brain, fall 22. Illustrator Spring 2023. Thank you. I have been recording some videos for an asynchronous class that I teach. And it's so hard during the day. And this is exactly the time that the sun hits me right there. And I'm like this little black figure, but I have some lights that kind of propped up here. Let's see if that, I think that might work. No, but see, it only works if I'm, I don't know, it's the whole point that my webcam is trying to adjust for that light. So the whole point is you just really need to look at Illustrator, not at my face. Anyway, but so, okay, so here we go. Here's the Padlet. You guys have been, oh, I hadn't even seen the last few. The last I had seen was up to here. So these two I hadn't seen. I kind of liked Andrea that you went ahead and said, ooh, I like Padlet. So you've taken my classes before, but I didn't use Padlet before. So although you've taken classes in the past with me, it's been a while. And yeah, I've been using Padlet for like 1.5 years now, and it's great. So, and then someone asked me an actual question over here, Monica, during the week at some point, she asked me a question, and it was something that really was an issue. And I sat down here and I explained, I don't know, did you ever come back to?
No, I did not.
To see
no.
the answers? Okay. But it prompted me something I'll show you all today. But notice that, I mean, if you're just putting in the stuff that we've done or something like that, that's fine. But if you have a question, that's something I can easily answer, do check the Padlet, because that's the whole point. You're showing me stuff, you're trying to do the work, and I can support you during the week too. I can't like teach you a whole thing that I have never taught, but definitely, she said, does something strange happen? And she screenshot it. There you go. I'm tech support. I told her what to do, but now you know. Cool. So hi, Fabio. Nice to see you. And Saul, I don't know that you guys wasn't, you weren't here but last week. Were you, Saul? Or were you not in the digital design? You didn't come to one of them. But anyway, Saul, maybe he's the one who is always designing some really, why can't I open it? My mouse is doing weird stuff today. And let me go to my old guy, not the pen. There you go. So here's some other designs that he's going to. And other than just the design itself, I just want to show you, look over here on the right, because we barely began to graze the whole layers conversation. And over here you have an example not only of layers, but also of group. We're going to talk about groupings and stuff like that. And he's learned really well. I remember the first time he came to my class, he showed me some really complicated jobs, but the layers were a disaster. And so I'm so glad to see that you've like completely embraced that. And does it make your life a bit easier, Saul, now that things are a bit more organized? Or
yes, I
what?
think it's way easier now. Thanks for you to show me how to do it.
All right. Well, no, that's good. So what I'm saying is, so many people use applications because they open them up and they have to, right? And if there's one advantage to having someone walk you through it and talk you through it, is that I might be hopefully teaching you what's considered a best practice, right? And if you've never done anything, you start from zero, you're learning it from me, you don't know. But I told you last week, I'm going to show you something that usually people don't teach in Illustrator at the beginning, or almost ever, which is the whole layers thing. Layers and groups and all that are going to be so much easier if you know, if you can see what you're doing versus guessing, right? And that's the thing that I just showed from Saul. So I have another thing. I've been I record these Zooms all the time because, you know, for the last 2.5 years, but I don't watch my own Zooms. But I've been making recordings that are specific to a class. And then when I hear them, I speak so fast. It's crazy how fast it goes. I'm like, I gotta put this on slow. So if I'm ever, and there's actually a student in another class who told me I have a hard time because you say so many things at a time. Please stop me and ask me to repeat, tell me to slow down, like go ahead and put the brakes on me because I don't notice. I just kind of keep going. And if sometimes people don't understand it, I repeat it just as fast. So if the issue is that I went a bit too in my talk, not in what I do, I repeat what I show a bunch of times, but if I speak so quickly that you can't understand, please talk to me about it. Anyway, most of you guys who put up here, other than Saul, you put up examples of the work that we did in class, even if you weren't here. So that's great because that's the idea. You gotta watch the recordings and do the work. And then I know that, you know, that you're learning it. I'm going to show here Monica's question because I'm going to show it to you in Illustrator. She was doing the same thing as everyone, you know, colors, boxes like that. In fact, this is Monica's, if you can see, it's exactly the same design. This is the design she was working on. She was learning, you know, the job where we were learning about rectangles. And suddenly her screen turned into this. And she freaked out, something's going wrong. What happened, right? Maybe you figured that out on your own. I don't know. It seems to me that by now you would have figured it out. But I just want to show you that there's different modes in which Illustrator shows you stuff. So when I show you how to deal with it, one other thing, when I tell you to learn shortcuts, is that Illustrator's redo undo shortcut is different than Photoshop's. So 99.9% of shortcuts are identical amongst all these programs, but in particular, the redo undo has caught me many times because I do it automatically and then I'm working all these automatically and then I have to. So when you try to do the redo with Command or Control Y, instead of redoing, it does this, which is showing you just the outline view of things. So that's why she's seen, it's not even selectable or anything. It's not like it's got the boxes. It's just for you to see. Sometimes things are hiding and maybe she had a little box here hiding, you wouldn't see it. Well, in outline view, you would see that there's something there, right? Because it would be under that, but the color is covering it, right? So sometimes you need to have an idea of the structure and you don't want to be distracted by color. So this is the outline view, which you get by doing Command Y, which in other programs means redo. Command Z or Control Z is always undo. And then Command Shift Z is the undo in Illustrator. Okay, so it's just a slight change there, but that gets scary because it looks so different. Okay, I wanted to show you that. Remember, I'm really happy when people post other stuff. Sometimes someone posts, sometimes I give them some feedback, sometimes I don't. Other people post stuff. So if you want me to give feedback, let me know.
Diana,
Yeah.
so sorry to interrupt. So when you're saying command, that's for if you're in
Yeah.
you're in Mac,
Yeah.
right?
If I say command or control, they're equivalent, and it's always Mac or PC. So
Yeah.
that one, but it's the other guys that are the same. Shift Y, Z, all that is the same. But yeah, command always for the Mac, control for the PC. Thanks for clarifying that. Sometimes I'll say it's command Z, sometimes I'll say it's control Z, because if I'm demonstrating in a PC, I'll say control. If I'm demonstrating on a Mac, I'll say command. I'm bilingual language-wise, I'm bilingual computer-wise, and shortcut-wise. I mean, it gets crazy. Anyway, so anyway, I'd love and look forward to you guys doing some other stuff and posting them here for me to see, for me to comment, for me to say awesome or kudos, or hey, I tried to do this, but I don't think, like I do quite a bit sometimes with other people's posts, including Saul's, but I'm going to move on at this point to Illustrator.
Diane?
Any questions?
Yeah, I need a little review on,
Hold
I'm
on.
sorry about the feedback
No,
here.
no, hold on. Turn your sound off and let me tell you how to fix it. Turn your sound off for a minute.
Okay.
Susan, just mute yourself again, because I can't even give you instructions if that's happening. Okay, so here's how you fix it. When you guys have two screens, are both of these computers, or is one an iPad or something like that?
Well, one is an iPhone.
Okay, so then on your when there's two microphones in a room, this happens. So on your computer, go to the, like exactly where the mute button is, the microphone. There's a little triangle right next to it. That's a little kind of up arrow. When you click on that, you'll have a menu appear. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, choose leave computer audio. And now your computer will have no audio, but will hear you through your phone. We just had to disable one, and I know how to disable the computer. I don't really know how to disable it on the iPhone. So can you speak now?
Yes.
Yay, no reverb. Okay, keep going. What was your question? I had to stop
It's
you
a
because
lot.
I can't understand otherwise what you're saying. All right,
Yeah. Thank you
what's
for that.
You're welcome.
Is there somewhere where there's directions to upload our projects so you don't have to review it now? I'm clueless.
Padlet. That, yeah. What do you mean upload, like other than
Upload our projects onto what are you calling it? The platelet, the palette?
Padlet? This, yeah.
Padlet.
So I'll give you the link right now. I sent an email to you guys with the link.
Thank you.
The link is also in the handouts. So that's, I provided as many ways as I can. But other than that, let me give it here again in the chat. And then there you go. There it is. That's the Padlet link. So if anyone has something else they want to share, show, attempt, good and bad, please, yeah, I mean, in the end, you learn more from what doesn't work than from what does work sometimes, right? So anyway, cool. Now, I want to, so who's on, so is anyone today on VDI? So at this point, I'm assuming Anna, you'll be on VDI again? Anna? Oh, did you freeze or did I freeze? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sometimes others freeze and it's me. So there you go. So are you going to be on VDI today then? Who else? Give me a yes
Yeah,
if
I
you're
know
on
I'm-
VDI. Give me a yes if you're on VDI. Okay, Jessica. Hi, Jessica. By the way, I haven't said hi yet. Who else is going to be on VDI? Give me a little yes so that I can see. Only Anna? Okay.
You said, Gemma?
Oh, Jessica, you're also on VDI? I said yes, like the little green check mark if you're going to be on VDI, just so I keep an eye and remember who to ask and who to support. Because right now I'm showing VDI. I just want to make sure that you have remembered, if you're on VDI, to last week, I don't remember if in Illustrator or digital design techniques in my 2 classes that I'm teaching in a row. In one of them, I went a bit like the class ended and I forgot to show you how to gently back out of VDI to turn everything off gently. And I don't know if it was in Illustrator or in VDI. So as long as I told you carefully how, I think it was in this class that I carefully showed you how to back out, then today your files are fine. But if not, you have to reconnect to Google Drive over here. So I think it's digital design techniques that I just kind of, everyone abruptly, time was over and I didn't get to show that. But do you remember Anna or Jessica or whoever else was on last week? No memory? Okay, well, we're gonna
Yeah, I
open
remember.
and who's speaking? Say that again.
I wrote it down, so I remember.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I had to mark here. My mat. I don't, oh, you wrote the process down, you mean? I don't. I'm having like a little burst of sound, but I don't understand what you're saying. Is it just me, you guys? Am I having an issue? Can someone else speak other than Anna to see if I can hear you well? Somebody say something.
This is Moni. I'm just checking.
Okay.
This is
then-
Susan.
Okay, I can hear you guys. Okay, so Anna, you're coming through in little bursts and your video is freezing. So why don't you go ahead and turn the video off of your, like mute the video. That way, that's when you're showing video, it taxes your system a lot. Are you guys, do you see her looking frozen? Is it just me that sees her frozen? Yeah, so I don't know if you're hearing me or not, but there you go. I guess you're hearing me because you did turn your sound off, or did you? Yeah, there you are. So that might help because I was only hearing little like bursts of speech and I couldn't really understand what you're trying to say. I think you tried to say that you did it well and that you are well connected. That's I'm gonna guess. If that's not it, then write in the chat or tell me. Okay, so let's go ahead and open Illustrator in whichever place you are, either in Mac or PC. Remember, I'm gonna have both, so I need to actually reshare. I'm gonna have both open at the same time. Here we go. New share. And there we go. So now I've got both set up. And this other stuff is going. All right, so someone's popping out. Something's weird with the connection because I just hear that someone popped out and in twice. Okay, if you're having problems, if you stop seeing me, let me know. All right. So last week, if you did the work in class or if you did it at home, when you first open Illustrator, notice that there's this recent thing, and this recent thing will show you the files that you worked with last. Now, for VDI, sometimes, depending on how you connect or disconnect, it might not have the recent. It might each time treat you as if you're showing up for the first time. But if not, you can open a file from the recents and it'll show you, I don't know, I think 10 or something like that. And if you don't, you can sort them by name or size, but usually you kind of want to work on the last one, so it'll be here. We're not going to open one of these, but I just wanted to show you that, with the exception that sometimes it doesn't work for VDI. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on new file. We're going to start a new file again. And last week, I kind of hurried you through this part. I just showed you a little bit about the fact that there's different choices here and that you have to at least have an idea of what your outcome for this thing that you're doing is. If you're gonna for sure use it only for social media, it'll never be printed, or if you think it'll be both. If you think it'll be both, err on the side of choosing print. The rest of the choices here, mobile and web or film and video, those will set up the file that if any image does have to have the conversation of resolution, which I mentioned, we'll talk about more. then it'll be different than, like if we bring something from Photoshop, it'll assume it needs a resolution for screen, which is very different than if you bring it into the one that's print, it'll bring it in with a resolution of someone who's going to print, right? And the same with the art illustration. So that's just the default. So let's start with print again. I want you to click on that option. And what changed then is what is given to you as a choice, right? So when I had recent here, all it did is give me some recent stuff. But when you start putting different choices here, notice that not only does it give us certain choices of what we can start of our layout and our size, and the metadata changes, but see that there will be samples down here of templates. You can actually start with a template. I'm not going to have you start with templates in this class, but go ahead and consider in the future or during the week to check out a template or two to just see, possibilities that you want to ask me, especially those of you who are a little more advanced in Illustrator, to see if you see some files that are, a bit more advanced and say, how's this working? How's that not working? You might want to ask me some stuff. Anyway, back to print. So when I click print, then the templates I have here are, posters or, hold on, my display, birthday cards, that kind of stuff. But one thing that for sure is that for Illustrator is good for is for single page or a spread like this, right? Like this is going to be one side and another side. But this is not the place. You won't see templates here for books or booklets or anything. This, on the other hand, is a trifold brochure, or I don't know, I can't tell. I think it's a trifold. But again, it's single page. But when I say single page, it's front and back, right? So you'll have two artboards, and one you'll do the front, one you'll do the back. This is not the place to do anything that has more than a front and a back. For that, we'll use InDesign, and that's what I'm teaching in the Friday mornings class right now. Okay, when you are going to print something and you know that your file is going to print, you have to add over here something called bleed, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that right now before we just open a file. Of course, on the right side, I'm going to change this back to inches. That's the first thing I need to do to understand what I'm doing. And then I'm going to have us create something that it works for me sometimes when I'm trying to demo stuff. I'll make this file be sideways, landscape. I never remember the word for portrait versus landscape. Vertical, horizontal, I don't know. Let's change that to landscape orientation. And I showed you what we did last week was in one artboard, right? I think we didn't have any more than one artboard. Is that true? Like pages? I don't think we moved into a second artboard. But what we can do here is from the start already, if I know I'm going to have 2 pages, just do it here. It's kind of easier. So I'm going to like either click up here to say 2, or I'm going to select and change that to the number 2. That said, the bleed here, there's something I need to consider whether I need it or not. Let me explain bleed with some of these templates. Consider, and I don't know if you can see them big enough. Can I make these a bit bigger? There, so you can have an idea. Consider this example, the thing that says daily here. I'm not going to open them. I'm just, because then you have to download other stuff. But just look at this is here. When you look at this, one key fact is that whatever is printed is within the bounds of the paper. Like there's a white border all around it, right? So this is a file that if you try to print, say, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, you can put in a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper, print this, and nothing is, you won't have to cut the paper to get 8.5 by 11 because all the art fits inside of it. On the other hand, if I go to this one or this one, or this one, or this one. I mean, basically most of what is here. The art goes to the sides. See how happy birthday has these little squiggles and, you know, touches the edges, right? So I really talk a lot about this in digital design techniques. So I'm going to just brush on it. I have a longer explanation and much more that we explore. Let me just say that if your art, your colors, your backgrounds, anything other than your white paper touches the edges of your final piece, right? Then you need to say that this is a 5x7 card. You need to print it on a paper that's bigger. And you have to add more size to your paper, not 5x7. You're going to have to add 1/8 of an inch all around. And that's called bleed. Because your real print, what it'll do, it'll print a little bit more orange, and then you'll have to put it in a cutting machine and go zoop and cut it out. And those little thin edges of paper fall out. And then your color will go to the edge. Does that make sense? So if you know that the design you're going to make is going to be with colors pointing to the end, or if you design something and then you go, you know what, I'm going to put color on the side, then you need to add bleed to that. By the way, if you do that and you're printing this project, you will probably have to pay more for the printer if you do add bleed, because they have to have bigger paper, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a consideration you need to take when you're printing. If you want to keep it a bit cheaper, you're going to go with no bleed. Anyway, so just that conversation about it. We're not going to delve much deeper into it here, because we're not specifically talking about those projects, but this is where you would change that. So just so that we see how it works, let's go ahead and add a little bit of bleed here, and notice that these are linked. So if I change the top one, they should all change at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and click a little plus up one, because that is the typical, it's 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. That is the typical bleed. Some projects need more, but 90% of projects need 1.25 inch extra of paper on every side. Okay, so we're going to do that. And we're going to see how it looks once the document is open. And then if you don't see these and you have them closed, by the way, some people have these things closed, click on the advanced options, right? I don't know if you had it closed or not, but advanced options, because I said I'm going to print, I chose the print, then the color mode that is being chosen is CMYK. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. If anyone has ever owned a printer on their desktop, you notice that you have these cartridges that have those 4 colors. I mean, some people just put in one big cartridge and it's all the same, but for the most part, you probably have seen this 4 little. All printed material ends up being a combination of different percentages of those 4 colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So if you hear me again saying printed, 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 is because that's only if you're printing the piece. If you are not printing the piece, and I'm going to head over here to web, notice that the main thing that changes here, first of all, you measure things in pixels on the web, and you go into this RGB color. RGB color is red, green, and blue, which is colors of light, because screens of any type and kind, your phone, your computers, is projected to you with light coming from the back. Okay, so so then that's a major change in these and how you even set up the document if it's going to be in what color mode. You can change things, but not. And then again, this whole screen here, raster effects, has to do with the resolution that I said, that if you're going to the web, you're just going to have a default 72 ppi versus in print, you're going to have a 300 ppi. So these are the 2 major changes, other than that the numbers are in a different format. Okay, those are the 2 major changes. I'm going to repeat what I had set up here. And as we go, that's all I'm going to tell you here. Again, I talk a ton more in digital design techniques about all of this, so if you have questions. But for now, let's go ahead and say create.
Didn't you want it to be landscape? You forgot to change it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, so since I already said create, it's going to create wrong. Because I had to reset. So let me go back and file, new file, and print. Thank you for catching that, because when I went to demo the other one, I lost my settings. And cool, there we go. Create. And I'm gonna go really quickly to my Mac one, and I'm gonna do the same thing. That way I can have both running at the same time. A second. 1, 2, and orientation and create. Okay, so now I have the document being created on both sides. All right. So one thing you hadn't seen before that you're seeing now is that red line. And what that red line is, and remember how to zoom in, Command or Control plus, is that extra 1/8 of an inch around the entire document. So, and this is not what we're going to do today. So just watch this little tiny example so that if I am going to have a box that is going to print only in here, then I don't need it because this box doesn't need extra paper. But if my idea is that I want the pink to be a banner that that's going to be all across, say the top of my document is going to have this little colorful banner, I can't put it on the white. If I do that, I risk that when this paper gets printed and they cut, I risk that I'll still have a little edge of white here or here if the cut doesn't work exactly. So I'm going to have to extend it, and any color that's going to go to the edges, if you're creating from Illustrator to print, will have to be included in the bleed. So now when the machine comes in, cuts, there's no question you won't have a little white line. Does that make sense, you guys? Now, again, that's about as far as I'm going to take the conversation, because I'm using Illustrator when I teach as how to use Illustrator to create art, not as how to print. I use InDesign for that. So, but a lot of people do end up using Illustrator and then they forget this part, and it's pretty crucial. So there you go. That's what it's for. Right. So I don't want us to start with that though. Just wanted to show really quickly. Okay. I'm sitting on them.
Can I ask a quickie?
Yeah.
You print in InDesign because you're adding text, or why?
InDesign is made for layout. Like all the settings it has are for creating layouts of any, for things for web, for layout. Its specialty is laying out. And you bring things in from other places, photos that you fix in Photoshop, art that you created in Illustrator, text. So its big strength is creating multiple types of layouts and multiple kinds of formats. And so it's much, when you need to do something more than just a flyer or a poster, like the examples you saw are a basic front thing, a little card, that Illustrator can handle. But when you start getting into complexity, threaded text, a bunch of other stuff, Illustrator isn't the ideal program. As I said, you can make vector stuff in vector objects in Photoshop, but unless you have to, then you might as well do an Illustrator. Like each program can do things that the other do, but it's not necessarily their strength. So then their strength would be another program. Okay.
So yes, I think I discovered that yesterday because I wanted to kill myself.
Oh, okay. Hopefully.
Because I was bringing stuff in from AutoCAD and I was losing lines and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
and I knew how to do PageMaker, but that was eons ago.
Oh, well, PageMaker InDesign is the
I know.
the baby, the grandchild, or the whatever of PageMaker. Okay, so yeah, that'll depend probably on how you exported the stuff from CAD, from AutoCAD that then you brought it in.
Yeah,
here,
there's
so.
a lot. There's a lot.
All right. So last week we made basic shapes and basic layers. So I don't know if you remember, but did you put the layers right here as a little shortcut? First of all, remember to, those of you who weren't here last week, to make sure that you're in the essentials. It's not showing here because it's out of the mode. I think it'll show if I'm in the PC one. The PC, the VDI tends to show the boxes inside. Yeah, there we go. So make sure you're in essentials, okay? But when you do hit essentials, one of the big differences, this one came up collapsed. One of the big differences is that the layers are missing, right? they don't consider it essential, which I, as I already just told you, consider it beyond essential. So we can open what's missing by going to window. This is a reminder, if you don't have something, you can just bring it up and choose layers. So these are all possible palettes that aren't open right now. Look at how many more things we can do that aren't even, we're not even using right now. When you open layers, then in this case, oh, maybe that was the layers one. Okay, so then this one up here is where we're going to see our layers. So I just want to make sure everyone has their layers handy. We're going to keep working with the shapes and we're going to be using our layers a lot. So I want you to make sure you have them. If the panel popped in kind of loose like this because of how, depending different setups, then you can grab it from this top. No, this top part is to move it from the word layers. You'll grab it from the word layers and you'll just drag it in here. And, you know, when you see that big blue line and let go, then it pops in. I'm going to just kind of make it small or big by going, remember the two headed arrows allow us to collapse or expand a panel. And then all I need to do is click on the very thing to have it temporarily up and temporarily down. Okay, so this is modifying the palettes to work for you is truly important. So anyway, if everyone has access to their layers, I'll keep going. If for some reason you can't,
Diana?
let me know. Yes, Janet?
I wasn't here last week, as you know.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my screen and I am not able to choose essentials. How do you get to that?
Mac or PC?
I have a PC.
Okay.
Was this it?
So over here on the far right,
Yeah.
do you see this?
Yeah.
Looks like an old TV. Click on that one and then
Okay.
choose essentials.
Got it. Okay.
And
so-
by default, that's the one that's chosen. But if you ever changed it, say that you change it at some point, if you've used Illustrator before, then every time you open the program, it'll be in that mode, right? It'll be the way you left it. So if you've never used it before, you are already in essentials. But if not, then that's good. But the essentials didn't come with the layers, and so we had to turn them on. Okay. All right. Thanks for asking. All right. Just as a reminder, Janet, because other people who missed told me that they'd watched the videos and they did the work, and that's why it's been posted here, but I don't see your name. Did you watch the video of last class? Did you have a chance to do that? Janet? I can't hear you. Are you answering? You're muted if you are answering. Hello, Janet. Oh, there you
Major
are.
surgery a week ago and I'm just now coming out. of it,
Thank you.
so-
You did say, okay. So sometimes I have a lot of
So,
students and
sorry, but
I
I
forget.
just couldn't look at anything, but now I can.
That's good. But do you have any background in Illustrator? Have you ever used it or is this your first time?
Yes, I've used it.
Right. And just for me to know how I need to support you today. Okay. I'm not trying to make everyone right or wrong. I remember you telling me about surgery. I'm glad you're here and that you're fine. But I just need to know how much support you're going to need. And that's why I'm asking. All right. Everyone else, I see your names. You were all here. Okay. And well, Andrea, who caught up, who did the work already. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to teach you a bit more about shapes right now. And we're going to do that by creating a couple of, I gave all you guys access, you downloaded the files, didn't you? The class files?
No,
Did
Yes, you had us do that last class.
I had you guys download the class files?
I was in the G drive.
Well, if you are in VDI, okay, for VDI people, and I'm in VDI, if and only then you go to File and you say Open. I'm not using Bridge for those of you accustomed for me to using Bridge. This is just for VDI. You'll go to, meaning everyone has to go to File Open, okay? But I'm going to show you how VDI has to find their files. They need to go up and down here and look for Google Drive somewhere. And they need to see the Google Drive. And the Google Drive is that shared pipeline folder where I put the class files. So head over to shared drives and double click. And then over here, you will have one folder, unless you're in more of my classes. I have many here, but it'll say Illustrator shared drives. You'll double click there again. And then when you miss a class and I'm in the middle of explaining something, I'll have a file in there for you to catch up, but we don't have anything to catch up to. You're going to go to the download Illustrator class files, which again, I didn't change the file name. I did change some of the files that were in there though. But that's the file name. And then that's where you're going to get your files from. Now, the reason I don't like this as opposed to Bridge, but I don't want to add a whole nother application in here. Those of you who use Bridge and are comfortable with it, you go ahead and open it. But it's hard to know what file is what when you're seeing it this way, right? So in fact, even for me, I'm so accustomed to using Bridge that I'm not completely cognizant of their names right now. But anyway, I'm going to have us open, where are we? Trying to, I need to see it on Bridge. Where's the file name?
I can't find the Google Drive on the VDI.
You're on VDI. Okay. By the way, everyone else, it doesn't need to go to Google Drive. Everyone else, if you downloaded the documents, then go probably to your downloads, right? If that's where you downloaded them. But if you moved them already to some other place, then go find them in your documents or whatever, right? But if you downloaded them and did nothing else with them, they'll be under downloads. It's just VDI who need to find them on Google Drive. So I'm going to cancel that for a minute and say, if you don't see the Google Drive, then remember I said that you might need to refresh your Google Drive when you start. It's kind of what I said at the beginning, that you might need to refresh it because it's probably not connected. So go ahead and click on this minus to minimize your Illustrator. I'm so tempted to tell you guys to just open Bridge. I might even do that. And then go to this little icon here.
Bridge is a lot easier.
Yeah. But people who don't know it go, oh, what my application? So Anna and Jessica, you're both on VDI, right?
Yes.
And go over to this bottom right and click on this little up arrow and tell me if you see this thing that says Google Drive. If you do, click on it. Now, if you didn't reconnect today to it, then you need to disconnect and reconnect because the files are not going to pop in. The Google Drive connection has to be each time refreshed. So go over here to this little gear settings and then go to preferences. You know what, you guys? I'm going to use Bridge. So while I'm helping her with this, can you all open your Bridge application? If you don't have it and don't know what I'm talking about, let me know. But okay. And here you need to go again to the gears. And then you need to say disconnect account. Click on disconnect account. Now, when I do it twice in a row and I already connected, it kind of messes me up. So I'm not going to disconnect. But once you disconnect, it'll at some point you'll see the big old sign in to Google Drive again that'll appear over here. So give it a minute or 30 seconds or whatever until it appears, and then tell me and I'll tell you again. And you have to put your pipeline address. Jessica, are you following? Are you reconnecting your?
I was able to find the Google
What?
Drive.
You did find the Google Drive, but
Yeah.
did you connect it to it freshly today? Did you have to sign into it today?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, good. Then yours is good. Then yours is fresh. Because otherwise, I think you were there where I walked you guys gently out of it last time. But Anna wasn't going to be on VDI today, technically, because she was buying the app.
Okay, I think I figured it out.
Great. Okay. Give it a minute and then you'll have the Google Drive because it, Illustrator needs to now notice that it's there. So, okay, here's the deal. I know most of you have used Bridge with me before. Many of you have been in my classes before. If so, that means you have it. Open Bridge. Who has never heard of Bridge? Janet, I don't think you might have been in a class. Yeah. Anna, you have it. That's fine if you're on VDI, but Susan or Janet, do you
Yeah, I have
guys?
it. In fact,
you
I have it up. It's up already.
It's open and running.
I've
Okay,
got
great.
the files in there and everything.
I'm
How about
familiar
Susan?
with it,
Okay.
but I rarely use it, but
All
I'm
right.
familiar with it.
Do you have it installed in your computer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Yay, that's all. Everyone else here I know has it because you've been in others of my classes where I constantly use it. So I'm going to go ahead and open Bridge. And so Jessica and Anna, it's just so much easier to navigate. Okay, so I'm going to go to Adobe Bridge. It's not just Bridge, but it's Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Bridge, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe. So you'll find it under the A's. So I'm going to click on Adobe Bridge. Okay, so it'll take a few minutes to open up. Let me open my Mac Bridge in the background too. That way I have that one to show you as well. And does anyone not have, for any reason, the class files? Does anyone not know or hasn't downloaded them?
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Gerard, I thought you said you didn't have them, or did you find them?
Which
So-
files are you
Oh,
talking about?
I downloaded them into Bridge.
Class files. So these are the handouts, and there's a thing called download Illustrator class files. But guys, I had you do it last week. If this doesn't sound familiar at all, then you need to do it. Do you know who did not do this last week? Susan, you're looking a bit puzzled. Do you know if you downloaded class files? All right. Do you remember how to get into Pipeline?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So if you go into the shared drive of Pipeline, you'll see a folder called Download Illustrator class files. Right click and say download, so that they go into your computer. Whoever was on VDI last week didn't. I told them to download them just ahead of time. But other than that, these go to your computer. VDI needs the ones that are on the drive already. Okay, so now I'm gonna head over to this application, which is Bridge. If what you're seeing is different than mine, that's fine. I'm in a different classes files. Where you need to go on the left side is you need to go find your downloads folder, which doesn't necessarily appear over here. So then in the PC, go click on this PC. And then when you click on this PC, you look around. So not VDI, at home, go to your downloads folder. VDI, go to Google Drive. Jessica, yeah?
I don't think I downloaded them.
You-
The
You're
past files, I don't remember that.
You're on VDI though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on VDI, you don't need to download anything.
Okay.
Only people who, so you and Anna have to find them in Google Drive. And people at home need to go to their downloads folder if they haven't moved them around yet anywhere else. Okay, so that's VDI. This would be everyone else. Basically, there's only 2 people on VDI right now. So everyone else, go to your downloads folder. I'm going to go to Google Drive because I'm demoing the VDI. Double click on Google Drive and then share drives. Anna, you got it now? You're here? Or Jessica? Did you open Bridge, Jessica? Double click shared drives. And then in shared drives, again, you'll just have Illustrator. Double click Illustrator. And then everyone, this is truly important. Pay attention. I don't want you to have to go all the time finding the files, right? So when you get to the handouts, you can see the entire folder called Download Illustrators in there. Don't open it up. If you open it up, let me show you this. Don't do this. Don't double click and be in there and you'll see the files. That's not my goal. So if you did go all the way in and you're seeing the files, and they're taking a minute to show up because I'm zooming, I would need you to go back one step to your hard drive, because what I want you to do is to make a little shortcut over here, right? And how are you gonna make that shortcut is you're gonna grab that folder, okay? And you're just gonna drag it into this empty spot. And now you don't have to do this whole rigmarole in the future when you open Bridge. All you need to do is go and boom, click right there, and it'll take you
Diana?
straight to the class files. Yes.
I have a PC, and when I click on my OS C drive, it doesn't give me
This,
downloads.
let me, sometimes I have to walk people through it because different computers have different permissions. Why don't you share your screen and I'll give you a hand, because people have things in different places. And it's, in that case, it's easier to just see it than to guess at it. Anyone else who did or didn't get this handled, please let me know. And I'll help you.
Share
because-
screen. Oh, wait, yeah, share screen. This is fine.
Mhm. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, perfect. So this PC, go up to on the left side to click on this PC. If
Okay.
you went to the C drive and I said, go to this PC.
Did.
Which one? Okay, so which one is your,
This one.
that
I mean-
one, that is your, okay, so hit that one. Double click. Users on the far right, go to the second, yeah, double click users. Then
This one?
that's your name, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So now you're in your files. Okay, so now
Yeah.
go, there's the downloads, double click on that. See you guys, sometimes it's so much easier for me to lead you when we're here. So here you go. Now there are your files and I can see them. It's the folder kind of halfway down, but they're still zipped. So when you double click on it, yeah, you might need to extract it first from your Windows. Go ahead and double click and see if it works, but if not, you're gonna have to go and extract it probably. Yeah, so you're gonna go up.
Well, you know what? I already got it unzipped in another place, but I didn't get, so for me, I wanted to get these documents and I couldn't find it. How do I put those? They don't need to be over there. No, I have it right here. If I go,
Illustrator, yeah, I see
One.
it right there, yeah,
see, I
okay.
have that. Is
So
that what
if
I,
you- Yeah, that's what you needed to go, but
Yeah.
now you found out where to find those things, which is, I guess, under this PC, it says desktop documents and then it says JUWO,
yeah.
down two more, go down
Yeah.
two more.
Oh, you want me to
Click
do
on-
that?
Yeah, go down two more to go, no, on the left side, you say desktop documents, JUWO. Keep going down. There,
Oh, there, I see.
there you go. This
All right,
is your computer.
I see.
Okay.
Got it.
These are all your documents, all this stuff. This is it. So like, you
Okay,
probably, okay, that's the
Right.
question you were asking.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, give me a yes, everyone who sees the class files and has access to them now. Give me a big ol' yes. If you don't see your class files and you still need help, let me know. I'm tempted to say that maybe I didn't do this with everyone last class because somehow I'm surprised that it's not, that some
You-
people don't have it.
You went through the process.
I did, okay. No, I went to the class files that I have you guys download. All right, so now on the one that I'm sharing, I need to see the download isn't there, so I have to go to my computer and terabytes and my downloads folder. Sorry, downloads, Illustrator, give me a second, ABCD. You can do a search, it's so much easier to do a search. Here. There they are. So now I'm putting them there. So now it's easy for me to just click on that. And these are the three that I'm teaching concurrently. So now I have the Illustrator. Oh, these are not them. Illustrator Summer. That's not the one I need. I should clean up my, let me do, this is not what I need. I apologize. I have them in my other, let me just do a search because Illustrator. There we go. these are the ones we need today. I change my files all the time. And so I need that to change. Okay. Now I'm having issues with my mouse, I told you, which is kind of strange. It doesn't want to work. So I'm using a different mouse and it isn't always working. It drives me crazy. But if you have something here that you have in your favorites from other times, other classes that you don't need anymore, like this one that I just put in here, right click and remove it. It doesn't necessarily.
Can you share
throw your
screen, please?
Oh, I thought I was sharing all this time. Oh, when Janet stopped sharing. Next time I talk as if you are looking and you're not, please remind me that you're not. So whoever said that, thank you. So back to what I was doing. When you have too many shortcuts here, if you've taken many of my classes, you might have other versions. This is just a shortcut. So as you're not deleting the files, you can go and right click and remove it from favorites. And then you only access the ones that you're actually wanting to access quickly. Okay. As far as favorites are concerned. So these are the class files now. So is everyone here? If you're here, let me clear your feedback. If you're here, give me a yes, like positively yes. And if you're not here, give me a no. Fabio, I haven't heard from you yet. Do you have the class files?
Yeah, I have everything.
You got them, okay. Susan, did you find them? I'm not getting a yes, but I already saw that Janet got them, but Susan? I can't move forward until I hear whether you have the class files, so. Hello? Hello, Susan? You need to unmute yourself if you're saying something because I can't, since I don't see you because you don't have your video on, I can't tell if you're talking. So if you're talking and I can't hear you, unmute yourself. All right. Well, I don't know, maybe she stepped out. So I'll keep going. Okay, so this is much easier to teach Illustrator showing this because then people can find the files this way much easier. All right, so here we go. So the file that I want you all to open right now, we're going to go and open the creating lines farm buildings. There's two that look like these little green entries. So go to the C, and that's the one we're going to open. And when you click on it first, it pops up here and shows you a preview, but that's not where you open it from. You open it from this middle page. If you're interested in understanding the file properties, which some of you guys who know I do this in Photoshop, these are them, but it truly is not the file properties in Illustrator files, doesn't matter much. So I'm going to double click from here and it'll open up in Illustrator. I'm going to clear your handouts, and when everyone has this file successfully, and Susan, I'm still waiting to hear from you. Please give me a yes, and then we'll just keep working, and that's it. Now you have the file. I'm over the summer. I'm going to see if I change all my classes and create canvas shells for them to hold files because sometimes this takes too much time. I'm only seeing 4 yeses. So if you guys didn't give me a yes, I'm going to assume you don't have the class file. I need to know if everyone has this file open. So give me a yes, Gerard, Amber, Janet, Susan, Andrea, Monica, not Moni, but Monica. Oh, Andrea, there you go. You've forgotten about something. The thumbs up gives it to me for only a few seconds and it disappears. So in the same place that you gave me a thumbs up, go ahead and see that you can raise your hand for when you have a question. But if not, you can give me a green check mark and that stays up permanently versus a thumbs up, which if I'm looking around, next thing I'll go, oh, Andrea, you didn't answer because the thumbs up disappeared. So in the same reaction, the same reactions button, you have the round check mark is yes, and the next one is no. Okay, Susan must have stepped out because she's not answering, so I'm going to continue. All right. So
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So do you have this file open? Are you good? Are you?
She answered in chat.
Oh. Susan, okay, it's really hard because, yeah. I have 3 screens and I look at the chats every now and then to see if someone has a question, but I'm not having it in front of me. It doesn't pop in when people write. So if someone sees an answer in chat, can you, like they just did, just tell me that someone wrote something in chat, like point it out to me, because the person who's writing doesn't have their sound on precisely. That's why they're writing. So one of you speakers, tell me, go look at your chat like you just did. Thank you. Fabio, your hand is up. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually got it wrong. I thought I had the files, but I actually have the files from the digital design.
Digital, yeah. Well, then
Yeah,
do the
because
same
I'm not
thing.
in the.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, that's
why.
true.
It's fine. I can follow. And
I can let me just email this one to you really quickly, and you go take it from your email. So give me a second, guys.
Sorry.
I'm going to.
I got confused.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
he had an issue with classes, and so he's, long story. 2 of my classes are overlapping each other right now, and so they weren't letting him sign in, and so we're dealing with that. But he, by not being officially signed in yet, then he doesn't have he can't access the class files, because you can only access the class files when you have them. So I'm emailing it to you right as we speak. To your pipeline or your personal, what do you want?
Pipeline is fine. I have it
Pipeline
open.
is good. Okay, yeah, actually, I
Can
don't
you,
have.
can you, Diana, can you email to my personal, please? I'm not getting your emails.
If I have it, yeah. You wrote here what your personal email is. You guys who don't have your personal emails registered with the school, this doesn't work. This, you know, I got temporarily giving it to me like this, but I still don't really like have it. Okay, so there it is. I got it. Okay. All right, so it's just the one file. It should be arriving any minute now. And I'm going to continue, but when you have it, let me know. But right now I'm just going to continue because I'm pointing some stuff out. All right. So last week we created squares and stuff like that, and we figured out where things were. Now, in this case, we didn't create this file, right? So by not creating it ourselves, we don't know which one was created first, which one was less, which one can overlap, which one can't. So say that right now, I would want these bushes to go behind this building. If I go select them and move them over, they might or not, oh, they were. So what this is telling me, I have to guess, is that yes, this was created later than this one, right? So I'm going to do Command or Control Z because I'm going to undo what I just did. But instead of having to guess, there you go. Let's open our layers, right? That will tell us a whole story. I'm going to open up the layer, and when I see one layer, I'm going to click this arrow to see all the elements. And then since this one has many elements, I'm going to go to the bottom of this layer thing, and I'm just going to pull it open because, yep, lots of elements, right? So this is, I'm going to help you avoid this with today's class, because it's kind of hard when everything is, and believe me, you're going to have like hundreds and hundreds of loose elements. And you don't always have the space to view them all and see them all. So we're going to work a little bit on how to make this make a bit more sense. But if I do know that the shape I'm looking for is, for example, a triangle that's blue, even here, I could probably see that there's 2 blue triangles. It's probably one of those 2. And remember that I showed you how to select from the layers. How do you select? Like if I come over here, I just select it. Boom, I select it. And here it gives me a little blue line. That's the one I selected. So go try that. Remember, y'all have to be in your black selection tool. Go ahead and select on stuff. Select on this one, and a light will turn on right here telling you, ooh, that's that layer. Select this one, and it'll show you that's the one. But what if we select none, click in the empty area, click in the white stuff where nothing is selected, then how do you select something from in here? Well, you go to that little round button and click there. And that made your selection. This is like the last thing that I showed last week to select from here. And so it's the freshest, the stuff you might have forgotten the most, so to say, because some of you maybe had to leave a few minutes early and I ran into the end, is how to select things from here. So this little empty button circle, you click on it, but what tells you that it is selected is because you see the little bright blue light. I'm going to clear feedback. And again, to be able to keep going, when I say, let me know if everything's good, give me a yes. And if it's not working or you don't see it or you can't find it or whatever, because I'm teaching you, things happen, give me a no. And then I'll know to look around and give a hand. Now I see that Fabio's file is ready to go. Susan, do you have this one open now? You retrieved it from the mail?
I'm just lost. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to deal with it. I'd rather just watch what
All
you're doing and
okay, I
I'm
hear
fine.
you. I hear you.
Okay.
But if you go to your email with time, don't try to hurry up onto this one. Just click on the file that I sent you and download it. Then I can help you figure out how to open it. You can go file open and go to your downloads.
I didn't receive the email, so I don't know what's going on. So let's forget it. for
I
now.
sent it
Okay.
to the one that you wrote to me here. You told me L3DME.
It's IO3.
IO, yeah, IO3D, whatever you wrote, I just copied it. So
Yeah, it didn't.
it should
didn't
have
work.
gone.
It's okay. I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm torn because it's hard to learn if you don't. io3d@me.com. Yeah, it's correct. So yeah, so it's there. Keep checking. All right, I sent it to the right address. All right. Back to where I am. Okay, so if everyone's able to select things from here, how about though, if we want to select more than one thing? How about I want to select both of these triangles? Last week I showed you, right? I showed you how you click on one, and what did I say? What did you need to do to select the second one for numbers?
Shift.
Hold down your shift key and then click on the second one. And boom, you're selecting both. And remember that when you select two, you get one big bounding box. So now you click on any of these elements, doesn't matter which, once they're in the bounding box, and you click and drag and everything happens to both. And if you distort them, that distortion happens to both. I'm gonna say Command Z because I don't want, or I'm on the PC. Control Z because I didn't want to move those. But anyway, that's kind of what I showed you last week. How about if now click away, click on some neutral. When I say click away, click on like some white space. Now, how do you do that here? Basically the same thing. I go to one triangle, hold down the same thing, shift and click on the next triangle. And boom, both have been selected. Okay, so the same process, only what we're doing is clicking on this little guy. Now, I'm going to deselect by clicking on some neutral space. And what if what I want is not together, right? What if what I want to select is this roof and this door? If you can see over here, lights are coming up from all over the place, or this background. They're not next to each other like these convenient two triangles were. So that over here, it doesn't matter. You click on one, you hold shift, you click on that, and, and it looks like other stuff is in there, but if I were to move them, really only those two got moved. But so it's just a shift click. But here, it's a little bit different. Here, again, let me clean up my selection so there's nothing selected. If I want to select something from up there, I click up there. That gives me that little tree, so to say. Then when you want to select non-contiguous layers, you want to select this one as well as that one. On the Mac, you hold your Command key. On the PC, or people who are on VDI, even if you're on a Mac, on your computer, VDI is a PC, you hold the Control key, and then you click on the next one. Whoops. Is it because I'm in the, oh, for some reason, it's asking me to do the shift. What a VDI thing. Let me try it in my other bridge. Suddenly I'm curious of because on the Mac, sorry, I want to click on that one plus that one. It's a command thing on the Mac. But on the, okay, so on the Mac, it's the command, but on the PC, it's the shift. Okay, this is the first time I noticed a difference in shortcuts. And I had to come and test it to make sure. Okay, so if you're on a PC, you hold down the shift to select different things, just like we did there, but on the Mac, it's the command key. Okay, so and now these are not together. So if I go and select any of them, oh, then I can just move it. Now, notice, in my case, by the way, something interesting happened. Over here, something got selected that I didn't see. I didn't see that before. I'm going to click away. It was well, actually, I didn't see it. I wasn't paying attention, but I thought there was no window here. But when I click on it here, I couldn't tell. Like here, I can see that's the tree. Here, I can see that's the circle, but these little lines, I can't see them. It also makes it kind of hard to come in here and select it because I have to select exactly on the white line, but from here I can select it. But over here, how can you tell? How can you tell which one of these to select if you can't see it? So it's a good idea to name your layers, right? So the fourth down here, if you click on it, is not that window. It's something down. It's that line. So keep clicking down. One of these was that window. Maybe this one. Oh, come on. Okay, go over here and select it. It's that little window is, oh, wait, it's way down here. It's the one under 2 zeros, the 2 zeros, 2 circles. So go click on that one. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. The layers wide, I'm making it wider, okay, so that you can see what I'm doing. When you know that you have things that you can't easily distinguish, it's a good idea to name your layers. So over here, this one said they were lines, which is those lines right there. This one says they're rectangles, but there's so many rectangles here, but we know it's the right one. So you can actually right click or double click and call this one window box, I guess. Right? Then window box. And then I put a 0 there instead of an O. My goodness, there we go. And then hit return or enter or click away, and there we go. Now we don't have to guess because sometimes it's not as clear as all of this. Like some are clear, but some are not, right? Now, the fact that this says line is telling me that, you know, these 3 are the only lines here. But if I have 20 lines and I don't know which one it is, that becomes a little bit harder. So now I'm going to show you another way that you can work with these things. But the easiest one sometimes is just to basically name the element. So I'm going to clear your feedback. I'm assuming that worked, that you guys were able to do that. But if you didn't, if it didn't work for you, then let me know. Put a little double click. That should have worked. So you can go in and put, you know, roof, tall house, roof, or that, whatever. But most of the times, as long as the element looks very obvious, I don't name it so much. I'm going to show you a different thing we're going to do. So I'm going to collapse this for a minute. I'm going to come back here. And first we're going to practice here. I am going to say, I would really like some space between these 2 houses. I don't want them to be touching, right? So if I grab this guy and move it, I'm really only moving the body of that thing, and then I have to go and grab this guy and move it over, and then I have to go and grab this one and move it over. Oh, if I left the little lines in there, it's a disaster. Wait, I need to move that. Disaster, right? I'm going to hit Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. So go ahead and try it, you guys, to see how everything goes haywire. Command Z everywhere, and now I'm going to show you a plan B, but I see a hand up there. So yeah, Moni.
So I just wanted to comment, you know, when you were talking about the PC and selecting on the side, if you use a shift, you can select a whole line of items. If you do the control, you can do individual
Yeah,
item.
that's exactly how it usually works. But
Okay.
for me, it was not working that way, which is
Oh.
why I was really surprised. That's the idea. Shift is always one after the other, but in my VDI with my Mac, I think it was doing weird stuff because I was doing this and doing control and nothing was happening. It was, see, not selecting. So then I shifted to shift and it worked. But shift should always have done the whole
Everything in
things
between.
So
Yeah.
I think maybe it's some weird VDI thing that's doing that for me. I'm just gonna not worry. As long as it did work for you, then I'm wrong. Then it is the control key and it's just weird for me. It's working in a weird way for me, maybe. I don't know. I told you I'm on a really antique Mac mouse because my good one is faltering. It's the one that still had the little, I mean, look how old it is. That's the mouse I'm using. So maybe it's my mouse that is doing some weird stuff because I'm repairing the other one. All right. So you guys saw how untenable that is. And if I have an element with a ton of houses, a ton of elements, it would be very different. Impossible. So like this little element, it's fine. I can hit the 0, hold the shift. I call that a 0. The bot, I can shift these 3 and I could shift all 3 and then move everything at the same time. I could do that. But selecting every one of these lines plus that, plus that, plus that, that's crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to group the elements. Okay. That grouping of elements is also going to organize my layers. Let's just group them here first and then I'll show it to you there. So let's grab this little guy here. And again, if you want to go click shift, you can do that. Or remember I told you that if you select from somewhere in the neutral area and click and drag, you create these little nets, the casting a net. So I'm going to start somewhere top left of this element and make sure that I don't touch anything other than this element and select it. And now I'm selecting all of it. Now, I had to go all the way to the bottom because I had these lines, but remember I showed you last week, as long as you touch the element is enough. So if I were trying to select this, then doing this would have been enough to select the roof and the background of the silo as well as the windows. Does that make sense? You don't need to. Everyone, I find people trying to do this, which would be impossible because then I'd be touching that. Like you couldn't do that. But what I could do is this, and then I still have everything. Does that make sense? The targeted net casting, so to say, give it a try. If you try to select this house, you're going to include that tree if you try to select the whole house. So instead, you're going to click over here and you're going to grab the roof, the body of the house, the bit of the door, and then I'm going to extend to the windows and let go. Now I got that house. Does that make sense, you guys? All right? Okay, so now select one of these, whichever, one of these complete elements. And now you can either do it up in the menu or you can right click. We're going to group this stuff. So I'm going to start with the right click. And over here, it says group. For those of you who like shortcuts, it's Command or Control G. For those of you who like menus, you'd go to so much. I don't even use the menus almost anymore. There, groups. It's just, it would say, it's just that I had object group right there. Okay. And if you go up here and see group, Control G, Command G, that's how you group. Now, if you want to ungroup them, you already know over here, you can see it, Shift Command G. Okay. So anyway, I've grouped them. Did I end up grouping them? I've shown it, but I don't know if I already did. So I'm going to do the Control G mode. Now let's go look at our layers, see what happened there. Suddenly, instead of as many, it was down to here long. Suddenly it's shorter. Why? Because all the elements that are part of this house became something called a group. And if I open this little guy, then they've been collected into one little thing. Does that make sense, you guys? If it's working and you got your little whichever one you chose, if you got your group there, give it a try to make sure you got all the elements. Yep, all the elements are correct. You might leave something behind if you didn't want to do Command Z to leave it there. Then let's go and group some others. And if it didn't work and you didn't group something, then give me a holler. But I'm going to go ahead and select this guy and group it again. I like doing the Control G, Command G, but I'm going to, in this case, right click group. That works too. Then I'm going to do that for this as well. I'm gonna right click. I already had that as a group. This one is not grouped to anything, but look at these little bushes. They are supposed to be a little bush, but they're not grouped. Right now they're little hanging things. So now I'm gonna select all three and I'm gonna group those. Okay. I lost track of what I grouped already. I think this one I didn't group yet. And what else did I not group? Let me see. If I have any hanging elements yet, looks like I still have some that I didn't group. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and group that. And looks like I did not select yet this one. Yeah. So I'm going to select this one and group. Well, I don't want to grab that. Okay. So I have to be careful. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm clicking only in there and group that. So those layers that were a mess should now just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups and a lone little tree. Once you have your layers organized like this, you can distinguish which one is which by selecting it, for example, and you know which one. So now I can right click on the group or double click on the group and call this one the name, like tall silo or whatever that one might be. I'm just going to call it silo. That said, you need to remember that it's a group. And you'll know it's a group because of this little arrow, but in case you forget and you gave names on it, then you might forget it's a group. Then at least you see the word group. So, you know, if you're going to need to select them, change the names. If not, leave the original names, but just know that it'll be easier when you later have to come select from layers. It'll be easier to select it if you know what they are. Now, anything you click and drag around, right? Woohoo! You can make a disaster, and it's easy because everything is working. Okay, I'm gonna Control Z, Control Z, Control Z until I'm back. But be careful because if you Control Z one time too many, I'm gonna Control Z one time too many, and then you might undo one of the groups. Whoa, something happened here, and all I was doing is Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. So be careful, because and this is what happened to Monica. If I Control Z one time too many, undo or redo, so to say, you know, undo what you did is Shift Control Z. You have to redo. I wanted that group to be redone. Okay, Shift Control Z. If you look at the undo and redo, it's Control Z or Command for Mac people or Shift Command Z. Okay, I'm going to show you in a minute what the other thing that happened to Monica is. But right now, that's what we want. We want everything in groups. Okay, give me yeses if you've got all the groups set up and ready to move in groups. And if you don't, and something happened and it's not working, give me a no. I'm going to assume that Susan isn't answering because you're not going to be doing the work right now because you want to just watch. But Janet, there it is. Gerard, how are you doing?
Unmute. I'm just getting the last elements. I was having some trouble with my keyboard.
Okay.
I'll be there in a minute.
You'll be there. I can move forward from here. You're fine.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it slowly.
Okay, that's good. All right, so now we have a bunch of elements that are grouped and making it much easier then to do that. So that was the two possible ways of grouping, like, right, select the stuff here, or I forgot to, another grouping could have been, of course, I forgot to demo that, but it makes sense. I'm going to undo the last group. And basically at this point, the only thing left that isn't in groups is what I need. So I can go here and click on that, then click on the other one that's empty, right? This is a little bit harder because you need to know which one it is. But if I click on every single one that doesn't seem to be in a group, then hopefully that is the group. So then I can right click and or go up here at this point because there's nothing to right click and then make it into a group that way. Okay. Oh, but see, I forgot one. So I need to undo. There we go. So it's a bit harder to select all your elements when they're all over the place. It's easier to select them when they are, visually. All right. So in Photoshop or in other programs, and I don't remember right now off the top of my head, in InDesign, if it, InDesign is usually like Illustrator, so probably the undo is like Illustrator. The undo in many other programs is, instead of Command or Control Z, it's Command or Control Y. But in this case, if I do Control or Command Y, aha, does this sound like what Monica showed in the Padlet? Instead of seeing my shapes, what did I do? So remember, Control or Command Y gives you this. By the way, Control or Command Y undoes that, right? It's back and forth. And this is outline view. Now, where else would you have seen this? Under view. So this choice of preview, normally we're seeing it in what's called preview mode. And when we want to see the outlines, you go to view and you click on outline, which, as you see there, Control Y, outline. And then when you're done and you want to go back to see it in, colorful way, that's now says preview. Okay. So that's what that mystery thing that happened to Monica, but now you all know. And now, when is outline, some people only operate in outline when they're trying to do these really, complicated designs, when you're trying to figure out the whole structure of something, like you're trying to do something like a mandala where it's all mathematical, everything has to be perfect or things like that. But also it's good for you to look and see if there's some weird elements out there that don't have, that are maybe behind the house or that don't have color. I haven't had you do that yet, so we're going to do that now. And here, even if you can't visibly see it, you would see like maybe this tree was supposed to have little apples, but somehow the bushes ended up, the green thing ended up on top, and you go, oh, the apples were there after all. I see their outlines. I just need to shift them in the layers and put them in front, right? Does that make sense? So let's go do that. Let's create a couple of little circles. I'm going to go to my rectangle tool and choose a little circle. I'm going to go in here and make a teensy little circle and fill it with red, right? And it does have no stroke. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's really hard to work with these things when I'm far away. So I'm going to zoom in. Oh, I'm zooming out. And sometimes it's hard for me because I'm showing both Mac and PC, and I tend to confuse my control or my command. All right, so here we are. I can see my apple a little bit better. I can drag it over here, but I only want to create one. The rest, I'm going to create quickly. I want to duplicate. So if everyone has an apple, let's call it an apple. In this kind of design, it's an apple. In these very linear designs, it's an apple. How do we make more without having to create a new one, create a new one, create a new one? In this kind of art, it would make sense that all the apples are identical to each other, right? So let's create a couple of identical ones, the easiest way. So watch. Just look at my cursor. Look what's happening with my cursor. This is actually probably a little bit easier to do now that I think about it. And for some reason, when I'm when I'm in VDI, my mouse turns into double mouse, which is really weird. I don't know why. So give me a second because I'm going to create one here. This part, I'm going to show it to you on the Mac because of the way that because of what my computer does. You'll understand a little bit later. Hold on. Cancel. Okay. Okay. So here's what I wanted to do. I already had you put it over the tree, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put it over the tree, right? Well, there we go. I hate this mouse. It's driving me crazy. Okay. Look at my mouse now. Just pay attention to my mouse. I'm going to put it over the shape that I created, and it's kind of small, right? So just look at the shape my mouse takes. When I touch a corner from afar, it becomes, I'm here. I move close enough, like 1/8 of an inch close, and it turns into a little double-headed arrow. I move a little bit closer and it tilts into like a little, this one is like a little curve, and that's like a little double-headed arrow. You see that? I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to get a bit closer because the mouse doesn't change. So look at my mouse changing from the normal shape it has to curvy to double-headed, okay? Each one is different. You need to pay attention. If I'm at the curvy stage and I click my mouse right now, then I can rotate this, but there's not much to rotate in a circle. So that one is very, it doesn't, you know, you're not about to go, whoa, that's cool, because, you know, there's not much to rotate in a circle. Once I approach a little bit closer and basically my mouse touches the white, then that one is, yes, the thing that you use to grab the handle. I'm going to undo because I wanted to be a circle. So those we used before. I just wanted to show you the double-headed arrow that I hadn't shown you. So now put your mouse over the color of your apple. I see one black arrow. See that? Just one black arrow. How about now? What do you see now? From this to this, I don't know if it's too small. Here's one black arrow. When I hold down my Option for the Mac or Alt for the PC, I am now seeing two arrows. I see a white one and like a little echo of it. You see that? Option or Alt changes my shape into two arrows. And now I can click my mouse and drag out and I've made a little copy. And again, a copy, and again, a copy. As long as I'm holding on to my Option or Alt key, I'm making copies of this apple. Of course, it would be better if I did them in a more targeted way. I'm going to Command or Control Z, and I'm going to actually Control Z, 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 so I get rid of that. And now I'm going to duplicate them, but where I want. I'm going to say, okay, I want an apple over here, and I want an apple over here. Maybe that's it. Maybe I only want 3 apples, right? Or something like that. Maybe I want 2 smaller ones. So I'm going to make a little smaller one. You know, it's going to start to begin like Christmas ornaments. I think I'll just stay with 3. All right, did that work for you guys? If everyone was able to avoid having to make
Yes,
new apples, then
it worked. It worked.
yay, something that worked, Susan. Woohoo.
Yay.
Would you run through that again?
Right, so basically you select any shape, right? And you want to duplicate it, hold down Option if you're on a Mac, Alt if you're on a PC, and then click on the shape, the fill, not the borders this time, but the fill. And when you click and drag it out, you've made a little copy of it. It's a duplicate. Now, what's the advantage? Because I could have done a copy paste, right? Watch. I could have done a copy paste. People who are accustomed to copy paste, I'm going to say copy, right? Which I'm doing it with the shortcut Command C. And then I'm going to say paste. This one that I pasted didn't appear where I wanted it to. It appeared in the exact center of the area that I'm working on. Let me show you. I'm going to go and say Command minus, minus, minus. So I'm going to zoom out. Okay, there we go. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to select an apple and I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to say paste. Look at where it appeared. It always appears in the center. The paste always appears in the center of where of your artboard, like not of your artboard, of the area that you're viewing, the center point of this, which is what I'm viewing. So then I would have to grab it from here and drag it all the way back there, right? I mean, it's not horrible. I could do that, but how much easier is it to just select, hold down this thing and drag, and then you get your copies, as many as you want. That said, when I'm so far away, it's kind of hard to know where to put the mouse, and it's very typical to end up like distorting it. So usually you want to be much closer when you do this kind of work. But I was just showing you how if I were to do Command and paste, it would end up over here instead of exactly where I want it. So you're saving time. All right. All right, big old yeses if you all try the Command and paste, Control or Command paste one time, or select something. And if you don't like that, you can do right click and copy, right? And then, there's actually right click and copy is kind of cool, because then when you do paste, there's this feature called paste in place. So if instead of paste, I chose paste in place, then this one is I have a second one exactly on top of the one that I created. If I were to select it, there it is, right? So that would, it's still 2 more steps, but you could use that if you don't like shortcuts, because then it pastes in exactly the same place. Okay, so if I were to click on this little guy here and right click and say copy, and then for people who don't like shortcuts, and then paste in place, it would seem that nothing happened, but it did, because when I deselect and I grab, now it did paste an identical one on top of it. Does that make sense? So if you do paste in place, you would have to right click for that, or I prefer the command or option drag. Okay, now I've finally ended up with way too many apples on this tree, but there you go. Any questions? Nope. All right, so let's go to our layers. And oh my goodness, here we have a lot of apples. I'm gonna clear your handles, okay? Because now I'm moving on to not the creation of the apples, but a different point. I'm gonna make a different point here. At some point, I'm gonna zoom in a bit more. Command plus plus plus. At some point, I may want to move all the apples around on their own and separate them from the tree. It's doubtful. For the most part, I probably want all of them together. But I could do groups within groups. And I'm going to show you that in another element, but let's do it here too. Let's first make a group of the apples and then make a group of the tree. And I'll show you why after we do that. Well, let me show you really quickly why. Don't do this part. I'm just going to do it really quickly as a sample. Here's the thing. When you select a group and you change the color, the whole group gets colored. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to teach you how to avoid that. But that's the main reason why I don't want to group the apples with the tree. I want to group apples within apples first, and then group it with a tree. Okay. So in this case, it might be easier to select my apples over here, but I could do this to try to select them like that and then deselect with a control command, just the tree, but it's going to be complicated. So sometimes it's just a matter of shift, click, click. In this case, it seems like that, but you got to be careful how you do it, because if you start with this one and then you select this one, you won't know what in the middle didn't get selected. So it might be a little bit harder, right? So you want to like select like that. Or you might just take the tree away and then grab this. So you got to try to find, I'm going to grab these 3, these 5, and then shift and one more. You know, you got to be strategic. Anyway, somehow or another, select all your apples and now group them. And so all of this will turn into one group. So I'm going to do again, Command or Control G, or I'm going to right click. You can't right click, by the way, in the middle. You have to see what I do. Oh, that was like a deselect because it was in white. So don't deselect when you have to do a right click. You have to right click on an element, right? And then group over there if you don't like shortcuts. Now over here, I have all my apples. I'm going to go ahead and double click and call these apples. Okay. And now I'm going to bring back my good old tree. And if I now try to move this tree, I'm going to leave the apples behind, or I'm going to move the apples away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another group, which is tree plus group of apples. Does that make sense? So I'm going to select first the group of apples, hold down shift, and then select the tree. Or if I know here where they are, I can select here my apples, and then again, Command or Control and tree. Whichever way, what I'm doing is I'm selecting the 2 elements. So I'm going to start with the apples, hold and shift. And now I'm going to create another group. So again, Control or Command G, or right click group, or menu group. Now this thing moves on its own, but look at my layers. I have one big old group, which is going to be called tree. then I have one, inside of that, I have one loose element and a group of, I don't know how many apples. But the whole thing is one big group. So it's a group within a group. Does that make sense? So when I move the whole thing, I move the whole thing. But if I want to just change the color of the apples, I can go in here and select just the apples and say, you know what, I'm just going to have some green apples today. And only the apples are changing because I have that group separate from the other. Okay. If all of this that I just did worked, it makes sense. Give me a yes. If you're still working on it, don't answer anything. But if you're having issues or trouble and it's not working, give me a no. Or raise your hand or speak up. There's few enough here that you can speak up. All right. So Janet, haven't heard from you. Are you needing a hand or you just haven't answered yet? I know that when I ask you questions, at first you have to go and unmute yourself, right?
I got it.
So I always wait a bit, but yeah. You got it? Okay. So that's a yes from pretty much everyone. Now, this that I just taught you is going to be kind of invaluable, and this is not beginning Illustrator. But by doing it this way, you're going to save yourself a huge amount of hassles. I'm going to do Control or Command 0 so that everything kind of, the whole thing fills my screen now. Not fills my screen, but like the whole document goes to the edges and I see my entire document. And now we have, you know, whoops, it looks like I somehow ungrouped these. So let me select these and group these in all my do's and undo's. And now we have, I do so many do's and undo's that in my sampling that I probably undo stuff. How about these? I think I ended all my, oh, I'm demonstrating this in the Apple. I had made my groups. Okay, I had made my groups in the PC version and none of these were grouped. Sorry. Okay, so now it's all grouped everywhere and I can move all my elements all over the place. And I have to make a little trunk. So we're going to make a little trunk here. Now, you tell me. Do you think the trunk needs to be attached to the apples or to the green or to all three? Like a little brown box here.
It needs to be its own layer and then grouped with the tree and the apples.
So here's the deal. Let's look at my layers. Somehow, because it was the last thing I made was the apples, even though the tree itself area, the green had ended up somewhere down here, because the apples were the last thing I made, they are at the very top. So if I move this everywhere, anywhere, it's on top of everything, right? Versus if I move this house, it'll end up behind the tree, okay? Remember that's what we did the other day? This means that this is on top of everything. So if I make a tree trunk right now, it's gonna be on top, which is exactly where it should be because, you know, it's over there, but it won't be part of the group. So watch, I'm gonna make a little tree. And by the way, it's the little alarm bell calling out for break just came up. So we're gonna just do this and then we're gonna take our break. So I'm gonna make a little rectangle. And if I make a rectangle that goes up until here, that won't work. It kind of, you know, I'm going to leave that triangle around. So I need to make a rectangle that goes up above that. But if I do that, then I'm covering the tree. So it's going to show up. If I'm making it after everything else, it is going to be on top. Let's change that to a little brown trunk or something. It's kind of a fat tree trunk for that size of a tree. But anyway, well, I manipulated a little bit. So now that I have a tree trunk, since it's what I want, which I drew last, it is appearing on top. So if I go here to the layers, you can see that it's on top. Now, if I just grab this layer and drag it all the way, you know, somewhere else into the bottom, I might drop it in another group. So you have to be very careful when you have groups to not drop things in groups that don't belong. If I were to drop it inside that group, right, then whenever I move this, oh, the tree's gonna come with me. So you have to be careful with where you put that thing. Let me undo. Okay, so here's my tree trunk. I'm gonna put it in the, and some of you have this, thank you. Someone just posted in Illustrator in the Padlet. I just got a message. So yeah, remember, this is a good time to do a screenshot of some of these things, but the most important thing to me is your groups, right? It's not like I need to see necessarily this because you didn't design that. Maybe you want to move your little tree over here and then do a screenshot of this, but I want to see your groups, okay, that this is working. And if it's not working, give me a screenshot anyway, because then I can help you make it work. So now I'm going to put this inside of this group. See, I'm going to grab it and drop it inside of the word tree. And now when I move it, it moves around with the tree, but it still is not working too well because it shouldn't really be up in front. So I still need to go and open that tree and change the position. I need to grab it and drag it under the tree. And now there it went under. Okay. And I was able to get those to work. Now, I'm never going to move the top without the bottom, so I could make another group within a group, but I think this is good enough. I don't need groups within groups. I think this does it. If I need to move the whole tree, now it's one group. If I ever need to just move the apples, I come and select just the apples. I need to just move trunk or the, we have a name for this in Spanish, la copa del árbol. How do you say this part in English? I'm drawing a blank here. The green part, the top of the tree. We have
canopy.
Foliage.
Wasn't canopy more like a forest canopy or something? In
Or
Spanish, we have
foliage. Foliage is another option.
Foliage.
the foliage, I guess. So in Spanish, we call this la copa del árbol, the green part of the tree, the top of the tree. Anyway, there's no, I keep looking for the language because I know that word exists, but it just doesn't exist in English. Okay, so now I've made a group within a group. After break, I'm going to show you a different way to handle layers and groups within groups. We're going to change colors and stuff because this isn't the only way to do it. This is just the way to do it with layers and groups. And it's very efficient and effective. A lot of people who's been illustrators forever never learned this. So, you know, you're doing great. Before we go on break, let's save this file. Right now I'm demoing this inside of Mac. So it's just a simple Command S or Control S if you're on a PC to save. I'm going to say, look at that. This base file was created many years ago. I kind of have some files, lots of files in a big thing. And depending on the class, I want different. A lot of people take my class many times because I'll teach them something different, but mainly I'll use different images. And so they'll learn with a different, I'll teach a different thing about feature. So I haven't used this one in a while and it's been around, but when I try to save it, it's saying saving to a legacy format. I don't know right now. If I go look at the file, I can see when it was created. And in fact, that might, that might be, I might say 2022 or who knows when it was originally created. But it was created when I was using a different version of Illustrator, an older version of Illustrator. So it's warning me that if I change it to a format that is legacy, meaning old, it may cause some changes to your layout, disable some features and Do you want to continue? Yeah, of course, I want to save it anyway, right? But it's warning you. If you get this all the time and you don't want to see this anymore, you can just click don't show again. I'm never going to do that because I need to demo these things to you guys. And by the way, it's a way for me to know that, oh, this was actually, from whatever version. What it means is that if I had some feature that I just used, I just right now made it a feature I can think of now that didn't exist in old illustrators, then it wouldn't be able to be opened in the older format because that feature didn't exist. Anyway, so I'm going to say okay to that because it doesn't really matter, but I'm just showing you. And oh, I forgot to give it a name. Whatever. I forgot. I was going to not give it. I shouldn't have saved it. I should have saved as. Sorry about that. I forgot to save as instead of save. The shortcut for save as is Shift Command S I guess you got, if you already saved, it's okay, it's saved, that's fine. But if not, I wanted to save as to your computer. And I wanted to call this one groups, right? So we're gonna change its name. This is how you do it in the PC. In a Mac, I'm gonna show you in a PC. So I'm gonna take the creating lines away and I'm just gonna say groups, farm buildings, and leave it as an Illustrator file and say save. And this other thing comes up, which is asking me, well, what version, right? And this was, even though we might be I'm in the Adobe Illustrator 2023, there's no new version. Like these are all old Illustrator, right? So I don't want to choose it in old Illustrator. Illustrator 2020 is the format. At some point, they'll change it to another one, and that's fine. It's not like I'm doing anything wrong. It's just that at this point, this is the newest format you can save it onto. And okay, and I'm not going to change anything from here. I'm just going to say okay. Okay, so now this one is my group farm buildings. It's ready to go. Let me show those of you who are on VDI how to do a save because it's quite different. Okay, so for VDI people, how are we going to save this? And I don't have my groups here yet, but I'll make them. We're going to do file save as. And again, say save on your computer, but you can't save to the shared drives. So you need to actually go back here to the Google Drives. So here it is. And go to my drive. That's you're reading it, it's yours. There you can save. So you can double click on my drive. And I'm not sure if I made us make a folder last week because we didn't really save the file that we created. But if you did, then here it's already called Spring 2023 Illustrator. So it looks like we did make one. So click in there. And yeah, I guess we did. We had called it beginning practice. I'm going to take creating lines out. In the name, in the Mac, you change the name on top. On the PC, you change the name on the bottom. Group. Farm buildings, and then save it over there. Okay, so now I've saved it again, the same little, do you want to do this? You say, okay. And now you have your the name of the file has changed. All right. I am going to really quickly create my little apples in this version so that I have the same thing to demo. But other than that, if anyone has any questions, I don't want you to take a break until everyone has their tree and a couple of little versions and layers. At that point, yes.
I clicked on the link that you had for the Padlet, but it gave me the Photoshop class.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Really?
Yeah.
I must have given you the wrong, I'm sorry. Let me, I copied the wrong one then. Here, let me copy the link. Let me post it again.
Okay.
There you go. Hopefully no one else posted it in the.
It's in the chat. Is that where it is?
Yeah, it's in the chat. I just threw it in the chat. Okay. So yeah, I hope no one else posted it in Photoshop. And if so, that's okay. And now let me select both and make that another group. And do that. Make a little triangle, not triangle, rectangle on here. Paint it some tone of brown. And over here, I'm going to move it into the group. And inside the group, I'm going to move it underneath. And there you go. I'm all cut up. Okay. I have less apples in this one, but that's good. All right. Save. Okay. Any questions? Anything that didn't work for anyone? Again, what we're doing is learning how to manipulate objects and elements. It's not the sophistication of the design that matters, but if you have mastered the things I just taught you, good. Give me a yes. If you're still wobbly and you're not sure you got it, give me a no. And
I'm still working on the layering. I think somehow I missed that, but I think I got it.
Okay,
But there must be an easier way than the way I'm doing it. So I'll ask you about that later.
if you want to later, whenever you're ready to share your
I
screen, I can give
have
you a
a
hand.
bunch of layers set up, but I don't have
Oh,
everybody. I don't
thank
have
you.
them all.
Wait. This is important. These are not layers. You should only have one layer. And it's a weird conversation because you see a lot of stuff and it looked like layers.
Yeah,
These are if you want each element and objects, but do you actually have things that say layer 1, layer 2, layer 3? No.
I added a whole bunch of layers, but they don't have anything on them.
Yeah, so that's, you probably use Photoshop or something and you.
No, I have in the past, yes.
Okay, so that's a Photoshop-y thingy. It's layers in InDesign and Illustrator are very different than in Photoshop. So for anyone who knows Photoshop, and this is one of those things where they have the same name, but they actually do very different things in Photoshop than in Illustrator and InDesign work exactly the same. Why we're doing it here, but Photoshop works differently. So this would have, in Photoshop, you would have to create a layer for each element and you'd have like, 20 layers.
Right.
You could group them and do that kind of stuff too, but each thing would be their own layer. Here, no. Here we have one layer and all of these elements on the same layer. A reason to create more layers in Illustrator would be depending on if it's a complicated file, and we do that in InDesign when you have huge amounts of text and stuff like that. You might create another layer called this one, the graphics, and another layer called text, and then you work only on text. And then you might want another one for guides or stuff like that. But other than that, it should all be in one layer.
Well, if
so
you want to
can
create
get rid
a
of the others.
screen, you want to create a screen for make one thing opaque and one thing less opaque.
Oh, that's got nothing to do with layers. You would do that to the object itself. Okay. I'm gonna go into and I'm gonna
Right.
teach you a little bit
Right.
later, but yeah, you go into
Okay.
like isolation mode and then you just make something
right.
less opaque on its own. Okay.
All
So
right.
yeah, you'll be fine. All right. So yeah, I had to explain that because that does get confusing for some people. When you know layers from somewhere else, you kind of think it's all the same, but it's not. All right, so let's take a break. What time is it? 3:02, 15 minutes, puts it as be back by 3:17. Okay, see you guys in 15. All right, is everyone back? Show me some sign of life. Either turn on your videos if you do that, or give me a big old green check mark or anything at this point. So if you know if you're there. Party time. All right. Okay. Nice to see you all again. And any thoughts, questions about groups, anything else you things might want to about creating them? Now we're going to work with them and modify them, but just the creation of them is good. All right. Let me then share my screen. And it's not in that and this. Oh. Okay, here we go. All right. So all we have accomplished at this point is to have a more organized, grabbable, so to say, group of layers. Now, the layers that we made, for the most part, the groups that we made, we could have just done it here without having to go into the layers. The only technical thing we truly needed the layers for at this point was to put the tree trunk behind the copa of the árbol, the green foliage. All right, so that's the only like real thing that we did technically, because we had to go in here and move it into the group and then, you know, that group in there. So by the way, I haven't checked the Padlet. There it goes. Lots of little houses. Okay, so most of you guys have been posting on Padlet. Okay, so that was successful. Just to make sure you knew how to do it. Good. There's lots of posts. I have to refresh it each time. Okay. Do remember, most of you did. Yeah. Oh, you did. You put in the layers. Okay, good. I'll go check them later, but yay. All right. So without layers, let's close layers now. Without layers. As I said before, and now, yeah, go ahead and do it. Select one of your groups and say that you wanted to change something individually, because let's try it first. Let's go and say that we want to look at the color that this group is, and it has a question mark. There's nothing wrong about that. The reason there's a question mark is because it can't put any color here because there's more than one color. There's blue, there's green, and then the white windows, right? So it can't tell you. So when you see a question mark, it's because you have selected differing colors. If I were to select this group, for example, they're all blue. And so it's happy to tell me it's blue, even though there's 3 elements. It's not about how many elements, it's about how many colors, right? So when I click in here, if I choose only one, as I said before, the whole thing gets that color, right? And if I then click away, are those not in my group? Yeah, so those are strokes. Those windows are stroke lines. Okay, I'm going to undo that. So one way would have been to go into the layers and select only the roof. That's kind of, I already showed you that, but let me quickly show it again. I could just go in here, go over there, find this one, which since I didn't put names on this layer, I would open like that. And then I'd go, here's the roof, right? So I click only on that roof. Then I go to colors and I change it. But that was a few steps, wasn't it? It's not like, and this isn't necessarily a complicated design. And yet it took me quite a few steps to do that. So is there a better way? Yes, there is. I mean, this is wonderful that you can do that now that you have things isolated, but there's a better way. I do want you to practice that way. I want you to open your layers and change the color of only one element of one of these objects and see that that's a very viable solution. But there's another way to do this. So let's go ahead and say that what we want to change is the thing that has no name in English, la copa del árbol, this thing that's the foliage. We're going to give that foliage a different color. If I select this, I would, not be able to do it. If I, after what you've learned, if I go open this and then I go open this, or like normally these would kind of live closed and stuff like that, you'd have to, but you could do it. Okay, so you know that. There's an easier and quicker way. If I point my mouse onto the thing that I want to color, which in this case is the foliage, not the apples, and make sure you're not like near this one that's beneath it because that get confusing, just the foliage. I'm going to now double click. Just watch this piece if you've never done this. I am entering something called isolation mode. I am isolating one element from the rest. And as you can see, my entire tree is still its original colors, but look what happened. I'm going to do that again in case you didn't pay attention. That's the original color. When I double click in here, everything else is ghosted. And this goes for the whole file. It's like my focus is only on this tree. And in fact, look what happened to my layers. Literally, my focus is only as isolation mode. I don't see all my other layers. I am truly in isolation mode. I'm isolated just this group. Okay. So let's say that I change the color now, I would still change the whole group. So I need to keep double clicking until I get, like right now I'm in the group. So the group would all change color if I change. So now I have to double click again. And now I've isolated this thing that has no name from the rest of the tree. See how the trunk has gone cloudy and the apples are also gone. So it took me double click a few times to get to this. And now I can happily go and say, okay, I want this to be a dark green. It's a forest green or something like that. Now, how do I get back to seeing everything? The easiest way truly is just to hit the escape key on your keyboard. ESC, top left, hit the escape, and you move out of isolation mode. So when you have deep layers of groups, and this is only 2 layers in, that's a really good way to get to it. So you go double click, and there you are. 2 double clicks brought us to this thing. You can imagine that there's many instances where you're going to go double click 3 times until you get to it. But in this case, let's try to change now. Let's hit escape. And let's try to change one apple, not all apples. So I'm going to point to this one and I'm going to double click. And I'm going to double click again. I'm in the apples, but now I have to double click one more time to get to this apple. Double click one more time. Now I can change the color of one apple. Green apple, not this one. Okay. Then hit escape. And there you go. I've changed one of, so I'm inside the group called tree, then I'm inside of the group called apples, and then I'm one more time in. So it took me 3 sets of double clicks to get to the actual individual apple. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
So, if you're these houses, again, simple designs, I could have had one group for the windows, one group for both windows, one group for the windows and the house. So I could have had 3 or 4 just to make this. I decided to go easy and just make one for everything. But I could have subgrouped a lot of these little parts. And why would that be handy? Well, what if I'm designing a whole city? Well, I don't want to have, if I duplicate this now by holding the option command, I'm duplicating the entire house, right? And if what I wanted is to be able to have different shapes of houses, I'm going to do Command Z again, then it would have been nice if I had first grouped just the windows, like items, right? Because then I could just select the windows and move them. But if I now double click, and remember this one doesn't have fill, okay? If I move this over, there's no fill, right? So I need to click on the actual path because what we're seeing is the bottom. So if I double click, I have to double click on that little tiny line and then double click again, then move it. Then I'm moving only one, right? So ideally, if this was something I was trying to repeat, let me hit escape and then undo. Then I should have first so, and in fact, these are little individual lines, like these trees are individual lines, and you could have first put the trees, these square, these cross things are individual lines, they're not attached to that. But now, since I have a big group, I can't tell, right? So how do I get in to that? Well, let's just kind of double click onto the group, right? If I go check out my layers, here I'm inside this group, let me open it up. And now I can see that there's one element is one line, one element is another line. And this here is that this window, and this here is that window. So I have the two lines that go inside of the window, and they're kind of apart, and the other one's in the way, right? So I can come in here and say shift to the bottom box and shift to the two top lines, which is that window. And I can just group them in here. Again, Command G does the job. So I can do that, or I can go to Option Group from here. So now I have a group of just that one window inside of the group of tall house or the silo. So now I can select only this one and move it within the group. Okay, put it down here. But then if I want to change the color of only the outer window sill, for example, I would have to double click again. And then this is a stroke. This is not a fill, it's a stroke. I'd go into the stroke, and maybe to make something really obvious, I'm going to put it bright green and make it much whiter, and see how I've been able to, now I'll hit escape. I've been able to isolate the window from the rest. This doesn't make sense, by the way, I'm just showing you, by doing isolation mode. Okay, been able to isolate one element because this is a group of the whole house, another group of the window plus the two lines, and then all the way into the third, which is the individual item. But then I was able to change. Okay, so everyone go ahead and change one element of one of our groups. This one would be kind of one of the harder ones because it's because the crossbars aren't there, but go into some of these places and change the color of something. And the screenshot I would like you to do here is of isolation mode. So go ahead and get into like isolation mode in something, and then get yourself a little screenshot where you show how everything else is grayed out. And then here you only see the layers of this one group. Right? And this is like a little subgroup of that. Just find it. Just basically, if I keep going in and double clicking again, then I'm in either extreme or isolation mode. I'm inside of the group I made with windows, right? And then I select the element of that I want, and then I change it. Okay, if all of this worked for you and you were able to figure out how to isolate things all the way in and change it, and you've done your screenshot, then give me a little yep. And
I am not following you. Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Cool. So let's start again. Is there a particular step you're stumped by, or in general?
So how do you choose that one window within the group?
Let's start it with an easier element to choose and not the window, because since it's such a thin line, it's not a very easy element to choose. Let's just go to another group like this one, which is very clear. So just to learn the process, then you'll be able to see that, right? So so hold on. Every time I do the PC or Mac shortcuts, it drives me crazy. So I'm going to hold down. Yeah. Select this little guy, and I'm going to move up to this one just so that it's pretty clear what I'm doing. This is one entire group. If I want to, but it has 3 elements. So when I double click one time, and when I want to change is the little round thing, I double click on it. Everything else goes gray, but my group, my entire group stays dark. And in isolation mode, I've isolated just this group. Right? So if I change the color right now, it's everything. So now I need to double click again, or in this case, there we go. That also went what I call ghosted. And now I'm only seeing the of all the things, the ellipse, now I can go in and change it. Some other very different color than whatever's available. Bright orange, no, this is bright orange yet. So now it's very obvious. Now, for those of you who already figured out isolation mode, you know that I could hit the escape key to back up completely. But this is a little extra tidbit. What if I don't want to leave everything and then have to double click all my the way back in? Because sometimes you're really deep into a flower with 20 different layers of petals. I don't want to escape and double click my way all the back in and then each to change 10 petals. So I can really just go back only one layer down. If I look over here, it's showing me my layers. So I'm in the ellipse layer, but I can go back to the group layer by clicking there. And then I'll click on just this, and then I change just that, right? So I make that be, it's not so different from what it used to be, so let's make it round. Okay, so I go in, I can go in and out like that. So when you double click deep and you isolate one, you can use, if I had more layers, I would be deeper in, then I can just go and choose which layer I want again. And this is the back to all my layers. But I'm still in isolation mode until I click on that little arrow. So that's doing it without hitting escape. Okay, so again, I'm going to double click to get into the group, double click again to get into just this thing, change it. And then instead of hitting escape, I'll just back up only one, right? Rectangle group. And then I'll choose the other one, and then I'll change that one, right? Again, into some other. When I'm done with anything I want to do within this group, if I were to now say, okay, now I want to change that one, and I double click there, then it takes me back to 0, and then I start again, double click, and then double click. And then I change this one. Does that make sense? So you can keep double clicking your way in and out of groups all the time. Now I'm going to hit the full on escape and control 0. And we have managed to change every one of those colors plus that one without having used my layers, but just targeting double clicking. Now, why I said I'm going to show you with that is because then this is a harder double click because you have to double click on the edge. Got it. So thank you. Janet, did it work now with the smaller guy? With
Yes.
this one?
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Now,
Can I ask a question?
oh, of course. This is
When you
question
do
time.
that, I forgot what it's called, the
Isolation?
double line. Can you hear me?
Yeah, isolation mode, you mean? Or when you do what?
No, when you do the double line, and as you did in the tower,
Mhm.
around where the window is, you have a much thicker
Yeah.
line than I do. How did you do that?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, on the one hand, I taught it at the beginning, but you missed that class. But secondly, I'm about to teach something about that.
Okay.
So
okay.
hang on a minute
I'll
and,
hang
and you'll
in.
get there. I'm going
All
to
right.
teach a little bit about these type of shapes. And then we can come back here and then you'll probably know your own answer. But all right. So is this worked? Everyone knows how to enter isolation mode by double clicking and individually separating each element. Is that good for everyone? All right. So I want to show you something else that I don't want to do here. It's part of this, but I don't want to do it here. Okay. In this artboard. So this is like one page. So when I first opened this document, I didn't make anything about it. It was already made and it came with only one artboard. Go ahead and don't have anything selected, because if you have something selected, it's the properties panel is showing you things to work on it. Click on the background, the artboard, and then the properties panel is showing you here the word artboard 1. It only has one artboard. So I want to actually create another page, which in this case is another artboard in the same document. And so there's a couple different ways to do it, but one way would be go to edit artboards. Okay. Someone's talking in the background. Let me mute you. I think it's Janet. There we go. So I went into edit artboards, right? And then in here, it's this little plus, it's not very obvious. And this little plus sign, I'm gonna click plus, and now I've got 2 artboards. If you don't believe me, control 0. No, I'm on the PC or on the, which one I'm in? I have to leave this tool, go back to the selection tool. And control minus, minus, minus. This is my document now. I've got 2 artboards. When you do it this way, the second artboard is identical to the first one. It didn't ask me what I wanted. It just went, boop, give me another of the same thing. Because usually that's kind of what you want. Did everyone get a second artboard in? The way I just showed you how to get that second artboard in. Hear your feedback and give me a yes or no. If you already gave me a yes, start again, because I took a minute. I usually try to clear it before I ask the question.
Could you repeat the directions one more time? Just
Yeah. So I'm
I got to the
gonna
artboard
undo
too,
that.
but
That's fine. Let me undo that. So I only have 1 artboard. And I'm gonna go into this properties panel. But again, if you have something selected, you won't see what I'm telling you to do, because the properties panel, as I talked at the very beginning, and so maybe you missed that little bit, Susan, changes all the time what it shows based on what you're selecting. So now it's giving me options for how to modify the thing I'm selecting. So if I want to add an artboard, I need to select an artboard, which would be this part. So I'm selecting there. And so here we go. It's giving me artboards right here. Okay. So now I can go to edit artboards. And then I have to go down here and press this little plus sign. And this, and then I've created a second artboard. I can put one more time, I'll make 3, right? You can't tell, but now I've made 3. I don't want 3 though. So since this one is selected, see how it looks like an object, but it's really my whole artboard. It's not a little rectangle. I'm just making a whole new page. As long as it's selected, I can this little trash can and it'll delete that extra one. So everyone just click 1 or 2 more, and then you'll see that you keep having artboards. But notice that they have names given to you. So this is artboard 3, but it's number 2. It's the second artboard. This was 3. So the name, this has always been confusing, like 04 is artboard 6. So you could actually go ahead and change artboard names here. You can call this one, I don't know, test, because you're giving it a name. So this is the 4th artboard, but the name is test. Now you called it test. But now if you don't want test anymore, you can just hit that little thing and delete it. But if that's not the one you don't want, what you didn't want is this one, because what you made here is not important. I select this artboard and then I go and delete that one. Makes, there's a little space there, right? Let me keep doing control minus so you can see a little bit more of my whole artboard. Basically, this is what's happening here. I deleted the middle one. So then this one now is kind of hanging out there, right? So when I'm in this artboard mode, which I am in, I can grab these artboards and move them around. Okay? So I can just put it over here, move it in, move it under. Okay? So it's up to me how and where I want to see it. So say that I put this one over here. Okay? What if I don't want to keep making identical ones? If I make a new artboard again, there it shows up. What if I didn't want to do that? What if I want to create an artboard, and I'll give you some examples why later. What if I wanted to create an artboard that's a different size or shape? Well, first of all, I can modify this one. I can grab it as if it were an object, and now I have an artboard that's much smaller, and this over here is giving me size. Or in this artboard tool, I can also just draw a new artboard, and this is going to be a tall and thin one. I need to be in this artboard tool mode. Another way you get into this artboard tool mode over here, I'm going to leave it right now by going to this exit. Okay, if I actually hit the escape key, it's the same as having hit exit. Remember the escape key gets you out of stuff. I can actually have, instead of doing all that, I could have gone all the way down here to the artboard tool, right above the zooming tool. Click on it. I always call it like a little fish that's diving, a little whale. I always see a little whale diving. That's the one that's the artboard tool. And it's the artboard tool. And when I click on that, that's it. I'm in the same, artboard mode I was before, and I can keep creating. Now be careful, because you could make a mistake. Every time you click, you're creating one. So you could make a mistake and just do a little thing like that. And guess what? That's a teensy weensy little artboard, but that's an artboard you can barely see, but you did create that artboard. Look at it, it's the type, you have no idea what it is. And you can't select it, you can't do anything until you go into artboard mode again. And then you can go, well, that little thing's supposed to be. As long as you can select it, then you can hit the delete key and get rid of it, right? So another problem here is that maybe you move one artboard over another. Just warning you, this makes no sense. You're trying to put elements in each other. So it's like merging two pieces of paper. It just doesn't work. So just try not to do that, right? Just try to make sure that each artboard has its own space. Now, does anyone care to venture an opinion as to why in the world would we want different shaped artboards in a document? Don't we normally want just one size? And by the way, I seem to have brought the elements from that one when I moved the artboards on. By the way, everything is still clickable, right? I could still move things around right now from artboard to artboard. I'm gonna undo, but that's not the point. I'm just talking about artboards right now. So does anyone want to venture a suggestion as to why would I ever want this to be my?
Maybe you're working on something really detailed and you want to be able to, you know, move it in or move it out, or just keep it separate from the other things, or maybe you have your project so big you can keep all the layers, you know, or the different groupings separate.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. Say that I wanted to make a really intricate tree with little birds and flowers, and you know, so what you're saying is I could just build it over here and then just kind of add it later to this. So yeah, you could do that also on a big one too, though, if you wanted to. So in that sense, the artboard size doesn't matter so much, but yeah, you certainly could do that. If no one else has, so it's a good point, but it's not the only reason. So not the only reason. So I tend to do that a lot. I build things over here and then I bring them in, right? And I have like this one be the main one, but it could be done on any size page. So any other idea of this situation? I believe I have a file that shows that. Let me see. If we go to Bridge, if one of my files shows that, and if not, I will just talk you through what the situation is. But I think I did load the one. Is it this one? Let me see. It might be this one. Yep. It's the one called Working with Documents with the W. Here's an example. And it's not the best example, but you might create for one company different elements, like the business card, the letterhead, the wine bottle tag, right? So by working inside of one document, instead of on many documents, right, there's some disadvantages too, because then things become huge. So you have to be careful, but you don't have to keep recreating stuff. So you have all the colors that are used in this document. You don't have to keep guessing, because now this time someone said, hey, go get me some gift cards, and you've already designed the main page. Then you don't have to reinvent the colors. You go click here, pick that color from here, put it in here, and then everything is, you know, consistent. That would be an example. This here is, if you zoom in to this one, so go to Bridge and open the one that starts with W, Working. So it's one of the final files, right? So now I'm in the, let me move in a bit. Plus, select one of these guys and move in. Am I on the Mac or the PC? That's why I was holding the PC. And I can have a bunch of copies. Basically, these are all the grouped elements that got copied many times. I mean, the only way to make sense of the document like this would be to have a lot of grouped elements, right? Now, this is a sample project, and I have found that many times people who do sample projects aren't necessarily that good with organizing their elements, because down here, I can see all these seed packets. They are grouped. Each seed packet is a group. And then the flowers are a group. Okay, so that's the 2 flowers with the leaves. I made a group out of that. And then that's the naming, that's whatever. And then each one is 1 packet. So if I were to like click on this one, there it is, that's the one. I can move the whole thing. Okay. But one thing that I might have done to cap it all off at this point might have been, and here's when people were asking about layers. One thing I could have done here to make things a bit easier is then select all of the seed packets and make, again, another group out of that, right? And then when you go over here, I could have a group that's just the seed packet. So I'm going to undo that again. Instead of having all of these, right? I could just do the group. Okay, so Command Control G, and they've all turned into this one. So I could call this one seed packets, right? So this is my seed packets. And again, the names are hard to see. So if you really want to see the names, you need to make it a little bit bigger. But then I know I could end up, by the time I'm done grouping them, I could end up with just, 5 things here. However, this might be a perfectly good example of maybe it makes sense to have 1 layer per artboard, for example, and then 1 layer is called seed packets, and 1 is called logo, and 1 is called gift card, and 1 is called reading cards, or whatever these are. Does that make sense, you guys? That would be a good reasoning. But now, hopefully everyone has managed to open this file, because this is one that I want you guys to play with. I don't necessarily want you to just watch. All right, so I kept saying go do that. So I'm going to ungroup this for a second, because, by the way, you can ungroup by doing a right click and it'll say ungroup. If it's not grouped, if the element has to be grouped, when you right click, you'll see just the word group, right? But if you can, you won't see ungroup like this. This, I believe, is this leaf, or maybe it has a group. No, it doesn't. It's not part of any group, so it just has the possibility of grouping because it's not part of a group. It doesn't say ungroup anywhere. But if I click on anything that is a group, and then I do have the chance of ungroup. Does that make sense? I just wanted to show you that the choice only appears if it's needed. So you already saw that there's quite a few layers here. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And let's say that we want to change the color of these petals. Then I could go over here, go over here, go over here. Oh, which one of these is it? Definitely, there's no way to tell. So I would have to click here and I'd go, oh, there it is. That's the one. And then I'd have to open up that group and keep scrolling. And then I'd have to open up that group and keep scrolling. And finally, I got to the petal. And then I can change the color of that petal. Right? So see what I mean about, yeah, this is great for organizing, but it's not the most efficient way of reaching that element. So instead, let's just do double click, double click, double click, double click enough times until I have a bounding box around what I want. And then I change its color, maybe something very obnoxious and obvious. I'll talk a little bit about these choices in a minute. And then I'm done. And then I hit escape and I'm back, right? So now everything is changed really quickly. It's just a series of, it took me 3 sets of double clicks to get deep into there. I don't know. Let's see this one, for example. I'm going to just go ahead and zoom into that. How many clicks will it take me to get into, see how there's that little like what do you want to call it? Like a little thingy in here that I want to change the color of that, but only the centerpiece, not all of that. So watch, I like seeing how this works. I'm going to select this one. So over here, it'll tell me what is it that I'm selecting, because I'll see them. Double click. It's part of the seed packet, right? Double click again. Now it's a little group that's just this whole banner. Then double click again. Now it's part of just the group of circles and lines, and then double click again, right? And it would seem in this case that this has been grouped in such a way that it's like, this is it's a compound path, so you have to keep going. So it took me like 10 double clicks, something like that, but here I am. And I'm going to make it again obnoxious color, so we see it took me like 10 double clicks because I was deep. And let me show you again. I was in the seed packet group. Inside of that, I was in this little banner area group. Inside of that, I was in the green flower area group. Inside of that, I was in all the little spiky things group. And then that's a group that has many little elements. Each one of the little spikes is something. And then I went all the way into just the little circle, right? So I don't know how many layers, but that's many layers in. That it would have taken me a lot of opening up here in the layers to get there. So double click, double click, double click. It escaped. And now that little tiny little red circle is a bright color. Okay, so go ahead. Hopefully you're messing around with this file and you're doing this to your files. Okay. Any questions? Is it working? Yeah. Moni?
So my question is, so if I wanted to go up just one level, do I use the side, the layers panel?
Yeah, thank you for showing me that. Let me double click my way in. Double click, double click. See, if when you're in isolation mode, you can use the layers or not, but you can also go double click, and as I keep going in, see how all of this is joining? Double click, double click, double click. Each time I double click, finally I'm there. This is the last one. So this is how many times I had to double click to get there. So if I want, instead of just the little circle, if what I want to do is the whole set of brightly colored, whatever those things are, then notice that my good old properties panel doesn't show me colors right now when I'm in this mode, in this group, when I'm not into the final mode. So you can also change colors over here. I can go over here and double click there and choose, and I'm going to show you that a bit later, but I can choose a color over there and then paint it with the paint bucket. Where's my paint bucket? Right. I really miss not having that. So I like turning on the appearance panel, which is missing here. So the appearance panel, you go up to the windows that has all your panels and the appearance panel. So the appearance panel is the one where I choose these things. I'm going to just dig it in here. And then I'm not dependent on having the right thing selected to be able to change colors. And so now I'll select, whatever it is that I'm choosing right there. No, one down. I had said I wanted that. Is that what I wanted? Yeah. And then I'll change in here and make them all orange, purple, whatever it is that I'm making. Nope, that's a subgroup. It's a group inside of a group, so I need to go a bit two down. Okay. There's just, that's the panel. That's the subgroup of the little flowers. And this is the one that I don't understand. It's probably, oh, that's the white flowers. That's what I don't see anything. It's the big white ones. Because that when I don't see anything, it's something white, and that was it. So this is the little group that's the flowers. And so that's the one that now we can change and make it, the whole thing be orange or bright yellow. It's not, you know what? I'm going to hesitate there. There's a problem here with this one that it isn't, we're not seeing the color. because it's so tiny that we're just seeing the bounding boxes. So to see the colors, you need to approach, okay? When I am down there, it's so small that no matter what color you see, it's looking blue. Why? Because those are the bounding boxes holding them, right? So I'm changing orange, I'm changing them to brown, I'm changing them to pink, and it looks blue. But it's not that it's not turning blue, it's just that it's so tiny and so far away that those are the bounding boxes. So when you're far away, don't work, just zoom in. And yeah, it is taking the color. Like you need to zoom in. That's why the command minus, control plus minus has to be used a lot. And now you can actually see the color that you're choosing. Whereas before, those bounding boxes, when we were tiny, were so big. Again, I'm gonna go farther away now. And no matter what color you give it, it always looked like it's blue. Got that? I'm gonna hit escape. When it's selected, okay? When it's not selected and it has no bounding boxes, yes, I did change the color. But when you have that selected, there's no way to tell its color unless you zoom in. All right. So hopefully you're playing around and trying some other things here. I'm going to show you how to, you can zoom in over to this one, or you can zoom out and zoom in. But at some point, someone created this flower, created all these little bits and pieces, right? And then it's easy to say, okay, let me put that flower here in this logo. Let me take this one and make it a flower over here. Let me take this one and put it, I don't know where else I might put it, and the other card. So it's all versions of the same thing. So you have one flower that is blue here. And then over here, what you do is you don't give it a fill, but you give it a white stroke, right? But you don't have, you have all the elements in one document. You copy the blue flower, and what you change is no fill and white stroke. Does that make sense, you guys? It's just saving your, first of all, it gives a coherence to everything. Here it's white again, but this time it has black things. But your whole product line makes sense within each other. And if you choose a green for that, it'll be the green that's, you know, in here, or it's the green that'll be in the packet, so that it all like coordinates with each other. Got it? So anyway, this is another reason to work with different documents. I'm looking at the time. I want to show you something new, but I also want to challenge you. So I'm going to give you this as homework, and anyone who's just watching the recordings, what I'd like you to do, because I want to actually show you something different for during class, but what I'd like you to do for homework and to post in the Padlet is to create, with all the elements in this document, to create another card and another gift card that might look or match the elements. So I'm not asking you to create new, there's a few new elements here. There's a balloon. Here there's some circles that don't appear in other places. For the most part, there's very few new elements, right? I mean, this one hasn't been used anywhere else, and you might want to come over here. For the most part, it's just a reusing of the same. I know we haven't yet worked with text and stuff like that, so maybe you want to just copy the text or something, but just create a plan B over here. And some of you who are very new to Illustrator, that might still be a little bit hard. Today, we're still in the mode of learning how to manipulate, how to move around our document, groups and not groups, but we haven't really made our own thing yet. So I want to use the next half hour or 40 minutes that we have left to actually start creating our own stuff, right? And you'll have some skills then to come back here and over the week and create a couple new of these elements. A new, maybe you chase a seed packet and you put a different flower on it or something, I don't know. But ideally, you can come, like someone who's more new to Illustrator, maybe just change this flower for another one. But someone who's feeling that they want to challenge themselves a little bit, just actually create a new element. And then when you do the screenshot, you can screenshot the element you create, but you can also screenshot the entire thing. So see how it matches with what you've decided, okay? save this one, working with documents, and do it as save as, so that it's the one that you're creating, right? So let's go to save as and save on your computer, especially if you're on VDI, right? You want to have, and call this one my branding, or working with documents, I don't know, like variation of documents or something like that. That would work. Say yes, save. And then in that one, go ahead and create your new stuff. And some of you guys, we're going to go do some stuff now, and in this, we're going to go back to this one. But mainly I wanted to show you how to have many different documents open at the same time. So that's why I didn't tell you to close the others. So we have the original that I told you guys to open with bleed, that I was just showing you the bleed. We left it untitled. We didn't save it. There's nothing in it, so there's not much to save. Then we worked on this one that we renamed groups, and then now this one's the variation of, because when you save as, the other one disappears, and this is the one that stays, right? And this is the one that has all the different shapes. You can even make a new artboard and create another element. Tell me, oh, I thought this business needed letterhead. So create a new artboard and create some letterhead for it, right? I mean, as much as you want. Just this is you pushing and trying to do some more. I sometimes give that as an assignment during class. But I think you guys are, the group in general is a little bit faster than when I have 30 people. So I will let you kind of play with it on your own, and I'll move on to teaching you something else new. When that happens, then I get a chance to. Now, out of curiosity, my alarm just went off. Do I have it wrong? This ends at 4:20 or 4:40? Suddenly, no, 4:40. Yeah, so that alarm was wrong. I just got an alarm telling me class is finishing in 10 and 15 minutes, which I always try to remind myself to start wrapping it up. But that would put us at 4:20, so my alarm is wrong. Sorry. So I thought I knew it was 4:40, just my alarm that was wrong. Okay. I was panicking because I needed to show you one more. I want to show you a bit more. Because I want to respond to the question of those lines. Remember that, Susan, you asked me how to work with those lines and stuff?
Yes.
So I wanted to show you this first because I was working with that. But now what we're going to do next is going to talk a little bit about that. Okay. And then you can apply that knowledge into creating a new element over here. So let's go back to the group buildings. And now let's create a new artboard. And I guess I went and undid mine. Maybe you already had yours still, but I think in my back and forth of teaching something, I don't have mine. So again, I could click in here this time, and this just, draw my own, or I can click on artboards over here and say plus. The big difference here and the big advantage is that here it just gets created exactly the same. So it's faster than creating a new. If you don't need another shape or size for any particular reason, it's easier to just say, give me another one of the same, right? So here we're just going to get another one of the same. All right, so let's move over to number 2. And how am I doing this? Then remember, I'm holding the space bar. My mouse turns into a hand, and I'm kind of going back and forth. Okay. Oh, I believe I'm going back and forth. I'm sharing right now. It's the other version. That's why it was in this one that I created the multiple. I've got 2 going at the same time. I've got my Mac and my PC. So this is where I had created my multiple documents. If you guys still have multiple documents in here, you can, it's fine. Let me continue with this one, which is PC. All right, so let's go to the second page. And let's create one kind of biggish box. And it'll come out whatever it comes out, but let me show you another quick way to change colors. I don't want to change it from here because I don't really know what tone that green is. So I just want this box to be colored the same color as that green. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to head over to the eyedropper, which I have over here. If I don't have it, then I'm going to click on the, because I have the VDI thing in the way. click on the letter I as a shortcut to get to it. Your VDI, you will not be able to grab it because of that little tab. That's a VDI tab. Hit your keyboard, your letter I, and you'll get an eyedropper. This is still selected, okay? And then I'm gonna click on there and I'm gonna color it that color. Or I'm gonna click on here and color it that color. Because if I went over here, I'm not even sure that that color exists here. I haven't had you create new colors yet. Right now, we're just working with the basic colors, and this color is not part of this stuff. So the only way to pick it up is to do this, right? Or the roof. All right. So in fact, yeah, let's leave it this little roof color. And if you already change your roof color a lot, then doesn't matter. Just give it a medium darkish color. And then go back to your move tool, because you don't want to keep having the toolbar in your hand, eyedropper in your hand. Now we're going to make, now, you know, we're going to stay in the rectangle again. And since that's the last one I made, it will.
Diana, how did you grab that color from the little?
Okay. I grabbed the eyedropper,
The eyedropper.
but it only works like something needs to be selected, because I can eyedropper this like crazy. And the only thing that changes is the color, like nothing is selected. So the color appears, right?
Got it.
But if I was trying to change that, then I first need to select it.
Right.
And then with my eyedropper, I can click on something and it changes. Like this changes too, but the element changes as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's for when you don't know what color, that you have a good color here and you don't know what color.
So is the eyedropper like a copy tool? It copies the color?
Yeah, the eyedropper samples. It's a color sampler, let's say. It samples a color and it gives it, it lets it available for you to use. But when you're done with the eyedropper, don't forget to switch back to the main black area tool. For those of you who like shortcuts, remember how to get here. Who remembers a shortcut to go back to this tool? If you don't remember it, hover over it and it'll tell you V, right? So if I'm all the way over here and I had the eyedropper, which is a letter I, and I don't want to have to go all the way over here to do that, which after a while, it does seem far away. Then you just hit the letter V and it turns into the hand. The letter I was my eyedropper. No command, no anything, just a simple letter I gives me the eyedropper. The letter T gives me the text tool. I'm not going to write right now. The letter P gives me a pen. The letter V is the one that's the black arrow. And it's so cool to know that one, because no matter what we do, we always want to go back to the black arrow tool. That's just like a constant. Okay, so here we have a big box. Let's go ahead and I want to make another box, but instead of drawing another box, right? Remember how to duplicate this one? Because if I want another one of the same, and you know, what did I need to do? Anyone remember?
So you do the Alt and it has the double arrows and you click
Alt.
on it.
Yep, double arrow, yep. And then you click and drag out. That's just faster than going all the way here, making sure that the appearance is that one, selecting and dragging it when I have it right here. Yeah. And then I just wanted it to be smaller, but now I can manipulate it. So I just copied it, and with the same tool, I can manipulate it. It's okay. You can do it whichever way you want, but I find this more efficient, right? To copy something and then manipulate it. All right. So let's change the color of this one. And just to practice, go and tap the letter I and make it another color. I don't care which. And then tap the letter V again. So that quickly gave us two boxes with a little bit of a shortcut. If the shortcuts are hard and you know this was not something that you're able to do yet, then just you know, click over here, make another box and change its color like we did before, and you end up with the same thing. I only just want box though. Okay, so a lot of people here are a little bit more advanced, and I want to make sure that you also see the quick and easy and shortcutty way to do things. Anyway, so here I have my but when you're new, it's a bit overwhelming sometimes to think of what shortcut is that. So I'm explain both ways. All right. So now this guy, I'm going to go ahead and change. So one of you had asked this, I showed at the very beginning of the first class, is how to change the stroke. So you've known how to change the fill a lot, but the stroke is what I changed over here, Susan. So I'm going to go to the stroke, which is under the fill. And I'm going to choose, let's see if there's a color they haven't used yet. Limited to these colors only because I'm trying to make a point. So I'm going to choose this little bright blue. But the bounding box is also blue, right? So when you're choosing a blue stroke, you might think that you don't have a stroke, right? Because if I have this thing selected, it's got a blue stroke. So you'll only really see that one when you click away. Then, yeah, the element does have a blue stroke now. Okay, so now let's select it again. What if I want that stroke to be fatter? Then I made it blue, but I also can make it fatter. And that's the thing that I did to that line in that window. I just made the stroke fatter. So that's the roundabout way to answering your question as to what I did in that window. I hit a stroke and I made it fat. That's all I did. Now, let's go ahead and copy. So everyone, you made an element here that has a big old stroke, hopefully. Right? Big old stroke. And, oops. Really getting, the shortcuts are getting a little bit overwhelming when I'm, when I switch from Mac to PC because I do command and then I do short. Okay, so select and duplicate it. Again, you can choose whatever colors you want, but I want the same kind of general idea. I want two element. I want this big guy there. And I want these two. Now, what I want us to do is to not choose a fill. So I'm going to choose to not choose a fill. You have to choose the fill and then tell it, nope, nope, little line, the top one, no fill. No fill. Okay. Now I'm going to put this one on top of that. And then I'm going to put this one on top of that. And that is clearly no fill. But here's the thing, that this was easy to grab because any part is grabbable. But this part you can't grab from here. It's like trying to pick up a donut from its hole, right? So you have to click on the stroke. Yeah. That border or stroke is the only thing that has a fill. The fill is gone. None really meant none. There's nothing there to pick up. You have to grab the stroke. So when you have a big fat stroke, it's kind of easy, but when you have a teensy little one, and it's the other way around. Let's go back to one or click on this and go straight back to one, or even worse, let's make it the smallest stroke we can have, which is 1/4 of 1 point. And then when I click away, it's that teensy weensy little stroke. There's no fill. I have to select that, which fortunately kind of lights up, but it has to be exact for me to move it, right? So that's the only element that has any appearance whatsoever. You all following me? I'm about to do one more thing that I want to make sure that you've gotten to this point first. So Susan, Gerard, everyone who I'm not seeing, if this is working for you and you've got basically a box that has no fill and a very teensy weeny stroke that you have to move around from its exact path, if that's so, give me a good old yes. If any part of this isn't clear, then give me a no. Or speak up. There's so few of us. I still use the whole give me a yes, give me a no because I have 30 people classes, but you can speak up and say, hey, help me with this, or it's not working for me. So Susan, did that work for you?
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Mostly, I'll say.
Basically,
for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's my mouse. I'm having trouble with the copy command.
Oh, okay. It was just, you just have to hold down the Option or Alt key. Do you see that Option or Alt key?
I don't have an Alt key because I'm on a Mac.
Yeah, so then it's the option key, right
Ah,
next to the command, okay? So notice that
right.
it says option, and
yes.
on the very
Yes,
top,
so
it says
easy.
alt. So the PC is only called alt. For the Mac, it's called both. It says both option and alt on that key.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
So when you hold down that, then you can select and drag and make a copy. Okay, I'm gonna undo that because I didn't actually want another copy, but okay. And then all I did is to that copy is I filled it with nothing. Okay, and that's this. Okay, so now watch. We know that this box exists, but now I'm gonna also fill it with no stroke. Can you do that? Yeah. I can give an object no appearance whatsoever. So what I'm giving it is appearance, okay? So I'm giving it no appearance, 0 fill, 0 stroke, no points. I still see it though, because the object still exists. Click away, and there's nothing to see. There's nothing to see because I told it to not have any appearance whatsoever. Yeah. But the object still exists. If I put my mouse kind of over here, finally at some point it'll hit the path and I'll see it. So you kind of have to hover. Now,
So that would be when that outline view. would come into-
you spoke my words. That I was
Sorry.
about to say that would be and thank you. But I know I love it. I love it. You guys are learning. So Control or Command Y. Hey, it was there all along. That's one way to know. And then I can grab it and move it, right? That's the perfect example. Because this thing doesn't care about appearances. It only cares about, does the object exist? So I'm going to go ahead and say Control or Command Y again. Now, if you don't like shortcuts, you could have done that by going to View, Outline, and then going back to View, Preview. That's the back and forth of it. But if you know you made something because you're working on it, you know that, oops, I forgot, I messed up and I gave it 2 nuns. You can, 2 nuns meaning the letter, nun, not 2 priests, nuns kind of nun, but I hit none on both appearance factors. Then I can just hover over the area that I knew kind of it was, and then it'll appear. But if I close this file, open it in 10 months, who's to know that there's something there? So a lot of the times when you're trying to figure out what objects and elements exist, that's when the, Command Control Y really helps as well. Anyway, so right now I'm going to hover over it until I select it. Once I select it, it's live. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on top of this shape. Now I made us have a big shape. And then I'm going to grab this guy and put it on top of this shape. And this one has still no appearance, and this one does. Let's go to layers. And then I've got my big old flat rectangle, which is the first one I made, underneath. Now I'm going to put it up. And now basically, if I look at my page, it looks like this is my only shape. Does that make sense? I've kind of put the rest of the objects on top of them because since they were made second, I could still see them. One I couldn't see because I took the appearances out. And the other one, I can't see now. It was there though. I could reach it. But now, although I know it's there, before here you couldn't see it, but moving your mouse around, it kind of worked. You could kind of select it, right? Like it was selectable. But now, nothing is selectable. If I were to select this guy, then how do I know that there's something there? Well, if I'm good and I don't have hundreds of layers, I can look at them and go, oh yeah, here they are, right? And this one's so big, it's hiding them and they're underneath. But that's another way or reason in which you want to hit the Control or Command Y. Then you go, oh, there's some mystery objects in there that I don't see when I am looking. Okay, what's up? No, oh, there's something hiding there, right? They are there, but they're underneath. So sometimes when you're trying to create a shape and you don't know what's happened, it can, many times things like that could become a problem. Elements that are hidden that you didn't notice you made. Or sometimes you have little boxes that you didn't even notice you made because you just made a little box like that. It's so tiny, so teeny that you never see it. It's so tiny. If it happened to be a white filled box or a light blue filled box, you wouldn't see it. And people just make them by mistake. And even worse if it's underneath or the same color. But Control Y, there it is. There's my little weensy little box that I made by mistake. Okay. Anyway, I can select it in this mode and get rid of it. Or in this case, I'm going to go back to here. I taught you how to deal with it at layers level. And here's that, mini little weensy rectangle. Now, one thing that's interesting here is that weensy little teensy weensy rectangle is that thing that's filled with green, and that big one looks much smaller right there, see? But that's why this isn't the best way to identify an object, a shape. It's good, it gives you a general idea, but yeah, it lies to you in a way, because that, if I click on that little, right there, is that weensy little teensy nothing, yet it seems to fill the screen. Okay, I'm gonna hit delete to that one because I didn't want that one. And I'm gonna go grab my rectangle and bring it down again. And then now that it's possible, to see it, now I'm going to hover around. Oh, there we go. There, until I see this one again. Click on it. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a fill again. And there you go. And I'm going to give it a specific fill, you guys, which is this bottom right of the big box of colors. I'm going to give it this fill. It's called Fading Sky. And then I'm going to click away. So that's a gradient. It's filled. These up to now were filled with 100% colors. Oh, I forgot to do one step first. Let's go over to this one that does have a fill. And let me show you that you can change. We've been just giving it fill and strokes, but there's a thing called opacity that I can click on, and I can just make those colors more opaque. Let me grab and put it over here. So not more opaque, more transparent. Now, if you have nothing behind it and you go from here to here, you think, oh, I'm just lightening the colors. Nope, you're not lightening the colors. You're just making it more transparent. And since what I have behind is white, it's just kind of going light pink. But then put it over something and you can really see that what's happening is that you're letting the bottom color through. That's what's really happening. So that's what's happening here with this one too. This is a gradient that goes from blue to nothing. So at the end over here, you see nothing. The last color is truly nothing, right? And thus over here, you have a full solid color. It doesn't change when it's over it, but as it becomes more and more transparent, that's what gives it the gradient. It's really a transparency layer. It becomes so transparent that finally you're seeing that color. Does that make sense? Now, let's head back to this one that has fill and strokes. And over here, I'm just controlling the opacity of the entire thing. If you notice this word opacity, this word stroke, they have little line dots behind them, but fill doesn't. And you'll see that in other tools. When there's a little line, that's like there's more here. There's more possibilities for this opacity. So I'm going to go and click on the word opacity. And oh, there's more choices. My opacity, right? We're not necessarily going to make good use of this right now. I'm just going to say that for those of you who understand blending modes from my Photoshop. Now, I know blending modes is not something, it's more advanced in Photoshop. A few of you might have done it or not. Let me just really quickly say that you can have the same blending modes that Photoshop has here applied to your shape, but there's nothing much to blend right now. It's just weird stuff. So it's not the appropriate moment to use it, but I just wanted to show you. I'm going to, that if I scroll all the way to the top one is again normal. So I just wanted to show you that there's a little bit more under stuff. And some other times when you need something, these little lines give you other choices and options. Same with stroke. I can choose what kind of stroke I want. See how these are very sharp corners? I can say I'd rather have a little rounded corner or a little ending corner, but you know what? This won't make much of a difference. I'm gonna go to this one instead. I'll show you that's a cap. So look at what happened there. Or I'm gonna give you a little angle cut. So it's a stroke, but that has different, choices. This is the default one. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more to show you this last thing on the stroke. Remember last week, let me just opacity 100% again so that I can show you this. Remember last week I told you that this object got, what's the measurement of this object? It's, and over here I have numbers that tell me what thing is, but this object has been measured by the bounding box, by the path that created this between the handles, right? So the stroke of, at this point, a huge one, 15 points, half of it appears inside the object and half out. And you might not know, but there's really so pink over there. The pink goes all the way to that. If I were to go and give this no stroke, the pink goes all the way to that. But when I have 15 points, let me silence, I believe it's Gerard, then it eats away. So now my pink part looks smaller, but the object's shape size hasn't changed. It's just that it looks smaller. That's all it looks because it's in the way. All right. Sometimes this is a problem. And when you're doing logos and you're putting borders, suddenly your shape deforms. If this was a letter, right? If this was a letter A and I give it a stroke, well, with a fat stroke, you would kind of lose the hole between the A. You know what I'm trying to say? Things, depending on the shape, strokes could be a problem if they deform the shape. So under the stroke options, you can change where to align the stroke. And this is the last one. So the default, the stroke is half and half, but I could choose to click on that. And now the stroke is aligning to the inside of the path, or the stroke will go outside of the path. You see that? You're not always stuck with that half and half. And if you had, the pink shape was really important and you didn't want it to be deformed for some reason, you have to put an outline that's fat. You have to come and change where that stroke sits. Now, if you make this choice right now, here's the problem. Next time you go make another shape, that's kind of what you're stuck with, right? So just know that it's better to kind of change it once and then deselect and change it again. Here's an example where the stroke was so big and my shape so small that the fill isn't even available, right? Because the stroke was so huge. If I actually change the stroke back to something normal, the pink was there, right? Or smaller. So that your norm, unless you always want to have that be different, then your norm should be these first choices, right? Because it's kind of like standard. And then use these when it matters that the stroke be in a different place, which it usually doesn't matter until it's a fat stroke, like this eagle fat stroke that I had to make, which I don't kind of like big fat strokes, but sometimes they're necessary. All right. The last thing is those good old windows. How did we create those windows? Well, this one is simple. This is this one. Double click to isolate it. This is just a box that has no fill and has a white stroke. Look, no fill, white stroke. Now you see what this window is made out of. And I think Susan had to leave. She's the one who asked. No, she didn't leave. She's there, but she's not in front of the camera, but I'll tell her to pay attention. So this is that. But this, on the other hand, the little cross things, this isn't 4 little boxes put together. It's one white box and 2 lines. Does that make sense? So let's check that out. I'm going to make a line. So if I click the rectangle, the last tool is the segment tool. And a line really is a path. That's all it is. And once I let go I'm gonna now deselect. It disappears if you had no stroke selected. Because all a line is a stroke. So it has no fill. So a line has to have a stroke. Now, in this case, it was a white stroke. Let's put a purple stroke on it and make it fat again so we really see it. Big one. And see, that's what that line is. It's like a pure edge. It's all it is. It's just an edge, but that's how you make lines in Illustrator. It's just an edge, right? It's just a border. Whoops. Oh, darn shortcuts. So that said, now that you know that, and that, this is equivalent to that only one side of it, then when we click on this little stroke options, you'll see how you can't choose to align inside or outside. There's no inside or outside. The stroke just goes both ways. But what you can do is up here, change the butt cap, so to say, it's called that, to a round cap or to a square cap, right? So your line can change quite a bit. By default, the line doesn't go outside like the border does. It just goes to two sides of that. But you could have it be that way or that way, which means it's kind of going around the line in this case. It's almost like it's a little rectangle of its own. So anyway, those are possibilities and changes. Or you can decide to make it a dashed line. Okay. Or you can turn it instead into an arrowhead, which this shape is so weird that it's not giving us a good, in my case, because of the proportion of it, but that's how you get arrows made in Illustrator. Let's just leave the arrow because I have a dashed line, and instead of arrow, let's go and choose line. Where did I go back to choosing just a line? Scrolling to the top. Come on. None. No arrows. None. Come on. Where's the none? I'm missing the none. I want to get rid of the arrows, and you know what?
I think it's the very top selection. You have to go all the way to the top.
No, that's all it's giving me.
Oh.
It should be, but then again, I'm in VDI and sometimes it does weird things, but I don't have any all the way to the top. Oh, it was going with my mouse. I told my mouse is fidget. It was stopping there, but with the scroll bar, I got to the top. There we go. None. My scroll bar wasn't taking me any higher, but my mouse wasn't taking me higher. The scroll bar took me there, so I took none and none.
Does it matter what the point is if you change this, from 16 points?
Yeah, so if I now, that's why that was such a weird arrow, but if I go down to 3 points or whatever, and I go to the stroke, then the arrows will make more sense because it'll have, it was such a fat stroke that you couldn't, get an arrow shape, but now you can because the arrow is a little bit more, logical. And then this is the other ending. So you can have a different ending in this tip.
So you're still in inches, right? On your artboard.
This one is sizes and points. When I created this one, I guess I didn't change it. Yeah. You can go to the preference and change it for the whole thing.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, this is details in plain, and I'm showing these little things because normally I don't show the stroke variations, but you guys are doing well and fast, so I thought I'd show you. That's just a line, and the line can be in different modes. There's much more to lines. I'll show you later with brushes, but that's a modified line.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, so one thing we didn't get to do today, and I usually do it by the second day, and I got into the weeds of some internal stuff, which you still need to know. This is the only extra thing I taught you. The rest I was going to show you anyway. But I wanted to actually have you create a final thing. But we are, 2 minutes from time being done, which is why I am leaving this to you as a homework. Right? I already closed mine. To try to use some of these ideas of how to make shapes and fill them in colors like that, to go and do that. The only thing I haven't shown you text yet, and that's a whole nother day. So again, copy one of the text pieces that are there if you need. Yeah, so if you wanted to maybe do a little screenshot of this kind of all these elements that are a bit different together. It's not about the layers really and so much this time. But it's more about color and shapes and appearance and fills and that kind of thing. Go ahead and post that up. And we're going to talk a lot about gradients and how you create, let me just showing it to you. I'm not going to go deep into it, but there's different kinds of gradients. This is the one I purposely chose because it's one that goes to nothing. This other one goes to white. So it doesn't go transparent. It's black to white. This one goes to transparent. Okay, so they're different kinds of gradients. And then this middle one goes you through a range of colors. We're going to create our own gradients. We're going to do a lot of this, but I just wanted the distinction between these two. White is white. It's a color. Transparent is no color, is nothing. It's actually empty. Okay. And then there's this one here, which is also a black to transparent, but it's a circular one. So it's giving you like a little vignette, but it's also black to nothing. And then these two are pattern fills that I'm going to show you and we're going to talk about. But so this is like the basic set that comes always, basic every time you
Can
open.
you give a quickie on uploading to Bridge, or how you do that? Like if we
Yeah.
want to take
Yeah, good
our
point.
homework.
Go ahead and save this, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Bridge, you don't upload to Bridge. It's like the Finder. Imagine that you, let me actually, you're a Windows or a Mac person? Let me see, where should I
I'm Mac.
Mac. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this just for the Mac. Let me change my share. Let me get the Finder window. You understand how to use Finder windows? You understand navigating on a Finder on a Mac or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know
I think
how.
so. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Yes, I think so.
Let me give you.
So you go to your Finder?
Hold on.
on
No.
your Apple?
I just wanted to
Never
know
mind.
if you understand your Finder. I don't go anywhere. I
Don't go
was
anywhere.
just trying to see if you understand, if I talk about the Finder, if you know what I'm talking about. That's all. Some people, file management is not their thing yet. So I changed my share to just show you the Mac version. So what I was trying, why I asked you about the Finder is because in a Finder, you don't put things, it's like the files are in your computer and you just kind of go to your Finder and
Right.
you look for wherever I have inside of
Right,
something.
right.
That's in there, right? So that's all. Bridge is exactly the same. It's just a glorified Finder. Okay, it's a glorified Finder. So you don't put these anywhere. You go to find them. And so when you guys downloaded stuff, I told you go to downloads because there they are. So you go search your computer. And if you put something in your documents, you go to your documents. And if in that you have a folder that is whatever, see what I mean?
Right.
I guess I have that one. Then I find it. So you go to where your files are. So yes, and the only part in that the Finder matters here, or for Windows people, the Windows Explorer, is that you got to know where your files are, right? And when you made it or created it, you put it in the documents or inside of the folder of your business and the calendar for this year or whatever. So when you're in Bridge, you have to go into your documents and look for your business folder and then get into the calendar of this year. So that's all. You just see them in a visual matter. And mainly you find a lot of the metadata, like there's so much more you can do here. You can do categories and collections and stuff, but the basic way we're using it is as a glorified Finder to just look at things wherever they are. So if you have something on the desktop, you'll find it there. Oh, I have something cool to show you guys. Hold on. Class is officially over, but give me 1 second. I'm gonna go get something and come back. 1 second. It was here. Where did they put it? Oh God, who took the catalog? Sorry, I can't show you because someone moved it from where it was this morning or this afternoon. So here's what I wanted to show you. I just received my summer catalog in the mail. And I'm on the cover. I'm a cover model, guys. I'm a cover model. I'm having so much fun saying I'm going to change my profession now. It came in the mail, and I hadn't looked at the mail yet, and a student said, "Wow, you're on the cover." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I received it in the mail today, so I just wanted to show it off. But someone moved it from the table, so whatever. So the whole point is that if you want to go find a file, I laughed because I took a screenshot of it to send to my mom and I just passed by it. So anyway, that's the only reason I wanted to have some fun with that. So yeah, so I'm looking for through Bridge for the files, wherever those files are stored in my computer. So there's nothing to upload to Bridge. It's a glorified, very useful finder.
Yeah, it's useful if you have it organized.
Well, no,
Which I never have.
If you don't have to have anything, it's your files need to be organized, right? So
That's
yeah,
what I mean,
if your
yeah.
files are not organized, come to my Mac level 1 class because
I'll
I
do
teach you
that.
all about file management and file organization on the Mac. So then you know exactly. Now here I
So
made
it's somewhere, the answer is, even though I'm working on Illustrator, if I save it, I don't have to save it to Bridge.
No, you save it to the files. So if it's your business and you're making a calendar, you file it under your business name. Inside of that folder, you have marketing. And then in that marketing folder, you have one thing called calendars. And then you have the calendar from all the last few years and you go 2023 calendar, or in this case, you'd be designing the 2024 one, right? So that's where that calendar should be. And so in the future, when you want to find it, you would have to go into that set of files to find your calendar. So anyway, in this case, we're just opening the downloaded folder and resaving into it. So we didn't have, we're just going straight into the same place. So if you do go to your finder and want to find where's the work that you've been doing, then go to your downloads folder and find all your stuff in there, and then there'll be, that's the one we just made, right?
Right.
So we call it water. Okay, so this is where you should have, like, here's the groups that we made today. We made it called Groups Farm and one called Variation Now. So those are the two that we just worked on. Okay. But in this case, you're already seeing them in here because if you save them there, then I should go to if I go to my files, I'll discover that these are already here. Here's the groups that I created today, together with all my others. And I don't know what I named them. Variations is the other one. So it should be down the V. Here's my variations, right? So that's where they are because I saved them in the same folder that they came from. All right, guys. So Anna and Jessica, the two people who are still on VDI, I don't want the same thing to happen. That hopefully you'll have your own by next week, actually. But let me show you how to back out of VDI. And if everyone else is done, save your files, then you can leave. I'm just going to show how to do this correctly on VDI. So a file, and if I already saved it, you can close them from here. And if you didn't save it, it'll ask you, should I save it? And then we're going to close Illustrator. In VDI, in your computer, it's important to back out too, but it's crucial in VDI because if you leave it open, it'll be corrupted next time. And your computer is good that if you're not using it so that it loses less computer resources, but I'm going to close everything that's open in VDI until I'm back into this page. Okay. By the way, did you check your pipeline account? Did you have the response from the Photoshop, Anna?
Yeah, I did.
Not the Photoshop, the Creative Cloud.
I got it downloaded.
Oh, cool. So it was there. Phew. I thought, wow, a week, that's a long time to wait. Okay. So once you're here at the bottom of your VDI, click on this little, very, very important, sign out. So now go to this is the part that missed, which is where you had a problem before. Go down here to where we put the Google stuff, that arrow where we found the Google icon, click on Google, And before you leave, you have to, and Jessica, I think you're the only two left on video. You have to just disconnect. So you open this thing, click preferences, don't quit because then it doesn't pop up open automatically for you next time. Go to preferences, again to the gears and disconnect. Now, why it's good to have that, are you sure you want to disconnect? Say, yep, disconnect. Is because then you will be prompted next week with the whole sign in. If you close it, it won't prompt you and you have to go find the whole Google Drive. But this way, next week, we're going to find this that just popped up here when we open up. And we just sign in next week. That's the only new sign in, and then you open the things. So once you see that, then you can close your VDI by going to this little apple here and choosing the power button. And then click on power and then just say shut down. And now your Windows computer portion is shutting down, but then you still have to log out. So it says you've been disconnected, okay? And then we are in the VDI, and how to leave VDI is this little icon at the very end of where you see the site, and you say log out of VDI. Say okay. And you're back here, and this is where you want to be to start it all over again. But if you downloaded the documents, hallelujah. The applications, and hallelujah. So you won't need this. All right. That's it. I'm refreshing my Padlet. I see you guys are all posting a lot of good stuff. No one seems to have posted anything of what we just did. Refreshing. So go ahead and post some of these.
I just did.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Now it came in. Some of the arrows or the transparency. Yeah, I see them. All right. Cool. See you guys, some of you guys tomorrow, and some of you guys in a week. All right. And check out the catalog. Cover bottle.
That's
Bye.
fun.
It's very fun.